Chapter 26:10. Hey! Hidden Dragon Mountain. I heard that in that place, don't climb to the top of the mountain. The environment is elegant and beautiful, but if you climb to the top of the mountain, you are forbidden to enter. I heard that at the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain, there is a real dragon from ancient times. I don't know if it's true or not. There are many adventurers who like to go to Hidden Dragon Mountain for adventures. I know a tour guide who will bring a group of people there in 2 days. He will tell you where to go and where not to go. Then, I'll sign you up. Mo Bufan was very concerned about Yunjian's matters. As he spoke, he immediately took out his phone from his pocket and scrolled through his contacts. Thank you. Yunjian responded to Mo Bufan, then turned around and left the martial arts club. Hee hee. Our president is going to go to Hidden Dragon Mountain for a trip. How about our martial arts club's entire tour group go on a trip together? Zhou Huntao stood up and shook his butt as he suggested. Come on. You organize it. A girl replied to Zhou Huntao with a laugh. All right. It's a deal. Zhou Huntao replied. Halfway up the Hidden Dragon Mountain, there was a boundary that prohibited entry. This was because somewhere in the Hidden Dragon Mountain, there were dangerous groups of ferocious beasts, piranhas, packs of wolves, groups of poisonous snakes, huge lizards, and so on. There were countless of them. It was very difficult to go to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain. You had to pass through layers of danger to reach the top of the mountain. Most of the adventurers who entered Hidden Dragon Mountain all year round died there. As for Yunjian, she planned to follow the tour group to Hidden Dragon Mountain and enter the forbidden area alone. She followed the tour group because the tour group led the way, so she could reach her destination directly. Jiangxing City's largest casino. The casino was filled with the smell of smoke. Yunjian walked in. Most of the people in the casino were greasy uncles. Some people were too excited to gamble and put their feet on the table, not caring about their image. Here, the smell of smoke filled the air. Yunjian walked in with a backpack on her back and was stopped by the casino's person in charge. Hey, little sister, this is not a place you should come to. Leave quickly. The casino's person in charge was obviously trying to persuade Yunjian to leave for her own good, but his tone was not good. Could it be that this little girl likes to gamble? Or was it because his family was short of money and he was using himself as a stake? Hee hee, if you want to use yourself as a stake to bet with us, then I, your son-in-law, will be the first to go. A greasy middle-aged man who had his feet propped on the table and 10 gold rings on both his hands asked lazily as he looked at Yunjian with a wretched expression. Count me in. Me too. Someone in the crowd immediately spoke up. After all, there were all kinds of people in the casino. The world was big, and there were all kinds of strange things. In the casino, one could see a lot of evil faces that one would not normally see. Don't fight with me. Little girl, bet with me. The greasy uncle with gold rings on all 5 of his fingers, who was obviously a rich man, clicked his tongue and said. Just when everyone was laughing and joking around, as if they were watching Yunjian make a fool of herself. Yunjian pulled open the backpack on her shoulder expressionlessly and flung it at the greasy uncle's face. Wolala! A backpack of Grandpa Mao slid out of the backpack, shocking everyone present. Yunjian's voice that sent chills down one's spine rang abruptly. I know that this casino sells firearms and equipment behind the scenes. I want to buy the best firearms and equipment you have here. Call your head out in 3 minutes. Chapter 26:11. Yunjian came to this casino in Jiangxing City for only one purpose, and that was to buy the best military equipment as quickly as possible. She wanted to go to the forbidden area of the Hidden Dragon Mountain alone. If she met a god, she would kill a god. If she met a demon, she would kill a demon. Anyone who blocked her would be killed. Good tone. Good girl. Ha! Just as Yunjian finished speaking, a burly man who was 178 meters tall walked over from the side of the casino. This 178 meters tall middle-aged man was wearing a gray vest. The muscles on his arms were so thick that they were obvious. He had a long beard and looked older than his actual age. The middle-aged man came in front of Yunjian and said to Yunjian, "Then, little girl, what kind of military weapons do you want to buy from me?" After that, the middle-aged man narrowed his eyes and looked at Yunjian. "That depends on what level of military fire you have here." Yunjian's expression did not change at all. At the end of her sentence, she raised her leg and kicked the stool in front of her. The empty stool collided with the stool that the greasy uncle was sitting on, who had been hit by Yunjian's backpack of grandpa money. With a bang, the two stools collided with each other. The greasy uncle had yet to recover from the shock just now. At this moment, the backpack that contained the bag of grandpa money that had not been spilled out was accurately thrown in front of the middle-aged man with the help of the elastic force. From the moment Yunjian kicked the stool until now, she did not look away from the middle-aged man's eyes at all. However, she controlled the strength of her feet to the extreme. There was no deviation at all. She used the stool to throw the bag of grandpa money to the middle-aged man's feet without any deviation. When the surrounding gamblers, including the greasy uncle and the middle-aged man, saw this, their pupils constricted and they were shocked. "This money is all yours. Bring the best military equipment here. If the money is not enough, I'll make it up for you." Yunjian's cold words made the middle-aged man blink fiercely. Her backpack was half the size of her body. The grandpa money in this backpack added up to at least 1,000,000 yuan. The middle-aged man gently licked his lips with the thumb of his right hand. He smiled and stared sharply at Yunjian. However, he spoke to his subordinate standing behind him. "Go, take out the best equipment from the warehouse." The middle-aged man's men immediately responded and ran to the warehouse. When the gamblers in the casino saw this scene, especially the group of gamblers led by the greasy uncle who teased Yunjian, they were all stunned. First of all, how did this teenage girl know that this casino was secretly selling firearms? Actually, she was just a little girl. What was the point of spending so much money on firearms? Just as everyone was puzzled, the middle-aged man's subordinates returned from the warehouse. At the same time, they placed a large pile of weapons on an empty chess table. "You make your choice." The middle-aged man gestured to Yunjian. All the gamblers in the casino stopped in their tracks and stared straight at Yunjian. Everyone watched as Yunjian walked towards the pile of firearms, all kinds of pistols, rifles, submachine guns, automatic rifles, assault rifles, and all kinds of grenades. If she could pick the best weapons out of so many weapons, then Yunjian must be someone who knew guns very well. Everyone was waiting to see Yunjian's choice. Who knew that Yunjian would walk to the pile of firearms, pick out 2 pistols, a rifle, and 10 grenades? She put them into her backpack and turned to leave without saying anything. The group of criminals who also didn't know guns were all shocked. Suddenly, the middle-aged man looked at Yunjian's back as she left. He shook his head and said something that shocked everyone with a funny tone. "The only 2 high-performance pistols and a top-notch rifle I have here were taken by her just like that. In order to bring these 3 things back to China, I spent a lot of effort." Chapter 26:12. The middle-aged man's words made all the gamblers present feel shocked by Yunjian. They came and went in a hurry. Such was the case with small arms deals. When Yunjian returned to the martial arts club, it was already 1:30 in the afternoon. After returning to the martial arts club, she put her backpack in a corner of the martial arts club. At this time, Mo Buffon walked over. "President, I have already helped you contact the tour group. We can set off tomorrow. You just need to ask for leave from the school." After Mo Buffon finished talking about the key points, he paused and then said, "I know a friend who is going to Hidden Dragon Mountain this time. He is the tour guide of the tour group. Tell him where you want to go. He is quite familiar with Hidden Dragon Mountain and will guide you there." Mo Buffon's words made Yun Jian pursed her red lips slightly and nodded gently, "Thank you." "Hey, what are you thanking me for? The martial arts club is one of us. No need to say thank you." Mo Buffon laughed. Mo Buffon, who was highly sought after by the girls of the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China, and even the female students who knew him to show off, was obedient to Yun Jian. If people knew about this, they would be envious. Early the next morning, Yun Jian went to the tour group to sign up. Those who followed the tour group usually acted in teams. If they wanted to travel to a certain place, it was best not to follow the tour group because there were many restrictions on traveling in a group. Basically, they would not have a good time. One advantage of following the tour group was that they would not find the wrong place. Yun Jian was not traveling. She only needed to find the right place and not take any detours, so she chose to follow the tour group. At this time, not everyone had arrived yet. Yun Jian sat on a bench and waited silently. "Coming. Everyone gather here." Until the tour guide waved to everyone, indicating for them to gather. On the way to Hidden Dragon Mountain in Yun Province, Yun Jian sat in the last row of the bus. There were groups of 2s and 3s all around, chattering excitedly. Yun Jian sat at the back, looking a little lonely. Originally, Yun Jian had decided to go to Hidden Dragon Mountain with Lan Su, but after knowing the truth, she planned to go alone. "Are you the girl named Yun Jian that Buffon asked me to take care of?" "Hello, I'm the tour guide for this trip. My surname is Gu. You can call me Big Brother Gu like everyone else. Sister, you can tell me anything you need along the way. I can show you where you want to go. Buffon asked me to take care of you. You don't have to be polite with me." Yun Jian, who was looking at the window, suddenly heard a male voice. Hearing this, she turned her head to look. A young man in his 30s with a tiger tattoo on his arm chuckled at her. Big Brother Gu was Mo Buffon's friend from the tour group. "Hello, thank you," Yun Jian replied briefly. "Big Brother Gu, quick. Look for the plastic bags. Someone is going to throw up." Someone in front of the bus shouted anxiously. Hearing this, Big Brother Gu quickly said goodbye to Yun Jian and ran to the front of the bus. The journey was very smooth. When they arrived at the hotel, everyone checked in under Big Brother Gu's arrangements. This hotel in Yun Province was built with bamboo and had the unique aura of Yun Province's ethnic minorities. When her feet stepped on the hotel stairs, they could make a soft creaking sound. After checking in, everyone returned to the hotel after dinner. Yun Jian went straight to the front desk of the hotel. Standing at the front desk of the hotel was a young girl who was about the same age as Yun Jian. This young girl was wearing Yun Province's ethnic clothing. She wore a Miao tribe hat on her head and her clothes were adorned with many small accessories. When she walked, these small accessories would make a crisp rustling sound when they collided with each other. "Hello," the young girl said with a smile when she saw Yun Jian walking towards her. "Hello, I'd like to ask how to reach the peak of Shrouding Dragon Mountain," Yun Jian said directly. Who knew that when the young girl heard Yun Jian's words, her hand paused. In the next second, the abacus in the young girl's hand suddenly slipped from her hand onto the table. She looked as if she was afraid and thought of something terrifying. She exclaimed, "You want to go to the peak of Shrouding Dragon Mountain? Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 26:13. When the girl heard Yunjian's words, her face was full of horror as if she was frightened. Seeing this, Yunjian's expression didn't change at all. She naturally knew the reason why the girl was so shocked and trembling. The top of Hidden Dragon Mountain seemed to be cursed by someone. It was rumored that those who went to the top of the mountain were either dead or disabled. Many adventurers and explorers went to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain to find the truth, but they all lost their lives here. Just when the girl was stunned, a woman who was more mature than the girl and dressed like the girl, but dressed more maturely, pulled the girl behind her and smiled at Yunjian. "I'm sorry, because some time ago, several adventurers went to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain, and only one person returned here, and that person, he's already crazy. My daughter was scared by the person who came back from Hidden Dragon Mountain, so when she heard the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain, she lost control." This woman was obviously more mature than the girl. Hearing this, Yunjian nodded slightly. "My advice is that you don't go to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain. It's definitely not a fun place. Look at the young man sitting on the bench at the door. He went to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain last time, and he was the only one who came back alive." The woman pointed to a young man sitting on a bench near the gate, his head and body trembling incessantly as he counted on his fingers. When the people in the tour group who came here with Yunjian heard the woman's words, they looked at the young man sitting at the door with some fear and curiosity. He saw the young man counting his fingers over and over again. His eyes were bigger than a dead fish, and he kept shaking his head and muttering in fear, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Dead. Dead, dead, dead. Big monster. There's a big monster. Run. Run. Run." This young man, who should be no different from a normal person, was completely crazy. He kept repeating the movements of his hands and the words of his mouth over and over again. "Thank you for the reminder." Seeing this, Yunjian narrowed her eyes slightly. In the end, she turned around and walked out of the door with her backpack. At the moment when she was about to walk out of the door, she turned to look at the woman and said, "But I must go to the peak of the Hidden Dragon Mountain." Seeing how persistent Yunjian was, the woman shook her head and sighed. "All right, be careful. I have a map of the entrance to the peak of Hidden Dragon Mountain." After getting the map, Yunjian left the hotel without hesitation. She didn't even inform Brother Gu and went to the entrance to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain. This was a cave that stretched as far as the eye could see. No one knew what was on the other side of the cave. Just as Yunjian was about to step forward, she heard a voice behind her. "Wait. Do you also want to go to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain? Let's go together." Yunjian turned around when she heard the voice. He saw a few familiar faces. "Ha, we also took the tour group bus with you. When we came, we saw you looking at the window. You probably didn't pay much attention to us." "Hello, my name is Boppy. People call me Boppy. You can call me Boppy bro." Standing at the front was a fat man who was about 1.69 meters tall and weighed a full 160 pounds. He patted his belly and said, "If you're also going to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain, let's go together." A handsome man who was about 1.8 meters tall and looked cold said to Yunjian. The only girl in the team winked at Yunjian and said with a smile, "Welcome. Then we have 5 people. Chapter 26:14. When the girl heard Yunjian's words, her face was full of horror as if she was frightened. Seeing this, Yunjian's expression didn't change at all. She naturally knew the reason why the girl was so shocked and trembling. The top of Hidden Dragon Mountain seemed to be cursed by someone. It was rumored that those who went to the top of the mountain were either dead or disabled. Many adventurers and explorers went to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain to find the truth, but they all lost their lives here. Just when the girl was stunned, a woman who was more mature than the girl and dressed like the girl, but dressed more maturely, pulled the girl behind her and smiled at Yunjian. "I'm sorry, because some time ago, several adventurers went to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain, and only one person returned here, and that person, he's already crazy. My daughter was scared by the person who came back from Hidden Dragon Mountain, so when she heard the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain, she lost control." This woman was obviously more mature than the girl. Hearing this, Yunjian nodded slightly. "My advice is that you don't go to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain. It's definitely not a fun place. Look at the young man sitting on the bench at the door. He went to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain last time, and he was the only one who came back alive." The woman pointed to a young man sitting on a bench near the gate, his head and body trembling incessantly as he counted on his fingers. When the people in the tour group who came here with Yunjian heard the woman's words, they looked at the young man sitting at the door with some fear and curiosity. He saw the young man counting his fingers over and over again. His eyes were bigger than a dead fish, and he kept shaking his head and muttering in fear, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Dead. Dead, dead, dead. Big monster. There's a big monster. Run. Run. Run." This young man, who should be no different from a normal person, was completely crazy. He kept repeating the movements of his hands and the words of his mouth over and over again. "Thank you for the reminder." Seeing this, Yunjian narrowed her eyes slightly. In the end, she turned around and walked out of the door with her backpack. At the moment when she was about to walk out of the door, she turned to look at the woman and said, "But I must go to the peak of the Hidden Dragon Mountain." Seeing that Yunjian was so persistent, the woman shook her head and sighed. "Okay, be careful. I have a map of the entrance to the peak of Hidden Dragon Mountain." After getting the map, Yunjian left the hotel without hesitation. She didn't even inform Brother Gu and went to the entrance to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain. This was a cave that stretched as far as the eye could see. No one knew what was on the other side of the cave. Just as Yunjian was about to step forward, she heard a voice behind her. "Wait." Chapter 26:15. Zhang Xuanfei, Wang Lei, Dong Wendong, and Zhou Bapi were not ordinary people. It could be seen from their skills that they were different from ordinary people. The four of them listened to Yunjian's words. The snakes around them were either killed or burned to death by Yunjian's bite of the grenades and diesel. They were originally worried that they would be bitten by the snakes while running. After all, there were almost 100 snakes that came out of the grass. Now that there were no obstacles, the four of them started running. Zhang Xuanfei and the others only breathed a sigh of relief when they reached an open area. "Where's Yunjian? Is she here?" They ran to a relatively open area with fewer weeds. Wang Lei looked back and did not see Yunjian following them. Her face darkened. "Didn't you notice if she's following us?" Fatty Zhou Bapi panted the loudest. He leaned over and held his knees as he panted. When the other two heard this, they shook their heads. "I'll go back and save her." After waiting for about 10 minutes, Yunjian did not come back. Zhang Xuanfei, who was the leader of the four, turned around and walked back. Wang Lei was one step ahead of Zhang Xuanfei. She reached out and grabbed the corner of Zhang Xuanfei's shirt. "No. You can't forget why we're here. If we fail the mission, we'll die. But there are more than 4 of us. Those people are controlling our families. If we don't get the thing, won't our families?" Wang Lei's voice became softer and softer. Just as Wang Lei finished speaking, a series of noises rang out from the direction the 4 of them had come from. Yunjian walked over with her huge backpack. There was not a single trace of dirt on her body. Yun Jian. You heard it. Wang Lei's face changed slightly. Zhang Xuanfei, Zhou Bapi, and the others swallowed hard. Wang Lei, Zhang Xuanfei, and the others had secrets. If a normal girl heard Wang Lei's words, she would probably rush up and ask Wang Lei why they didn't go back to save her. Or perhaps, after knowing that Wang Lei and the others had a secret, they kept pestering Wang Lei and the others to tell them about it. However, Yun Jian did not. She carried her backpack and walked past Wang Lei and the others without any change in her expression. It's time to continue. Yun Jian, you're not angry. Wang Lei stared at Yun Jian. Following Yun Jian, she turned around and asked in shock. If it were me, I would do the same. Yun Jian didn't turn around. She just replied casually. This reply made Wang Lei really speechless. She opened her mouth, but in the end, she didn't say anything. The group carried their respective luggage and continued walking. Other than the hundreds of cobras that suddenly appeared when they first entered the cave, there was no other danger along the way. Although the mountain road wasn't easy to walk on, everyone spent 2 hours and finally arrived at a place very close to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain. The next hour's journey was quite smooth. However, when they were going up the slope, they saw many skeletons of animals thrown into the grass. What? There's no danger. Why do people outside say that on Hidden Dragon Mountain, those who enter the mountain are either dead or disabled? I really don't understand. Fatty Zhou Bapi could be considered a lively person. He was bored and held a weed in his mouth, panting as he climbed the mountain. Fatty, shut up. Remember to be vigilant at all times. Zhang Xuanfei scolded. Then, he looked at Yun Jian and said to her, I think this place is a bit strangely quiet. Did you find anything else? When Zhang Xuanfei asked this question, Yun Jian didn't respond at all at first. Everyone followed Yun Jian all the way and knew Yun Jian's character. She didn't reply, which meant that she didn't want to pay attention to it. Just when everyone thought that Yun Jian wouldn't speak, Yun Jian suddenly pursed her red lips and said something that made everyone's hair stand on end. The things that were casually thrown into the grass on the side of the mountain road are not animals, but human skeletons. Calm. Wonderful book house. Calm. Chapter 26:16. Suddenly hearing Yun Jian's words, coupled with the quietness along the way, Zhang Xuanfei, Zhou Bapi, Wang Lei, and Dong Wenming stopped and looked at the skeletons that were casually thrown into the bushes on the side of the mountain road. Those skeletons had been completely scattered and could only be vaguely seen as a pile of scattered skeletons. Under normal circumstances, seeing this pile of skeletons on the mountain, normal people would think that it was a pile of animal skeletons. Yun Jian's words directly shocked everyone. What did you say? All we saw along the way were human skeletons. Wang Lei exclaimed. Yun Jian, why did you say that they were human skeletons? As the leader, Zhang Xuanfei frowned and turned to look at Yun Jian. Although the fatty Zhou Bapi was also frightened, he was much calmer than Wang Lei. At that time, Zhou Bapi looked at Yun Jian and said, if these are all human skeletons, then these people, could it be that they were the people who entered Hidden Dragon Mountain and died in Hidden Dragon Mountain in the past? After Zhou Bapi said this, everyone's face sank. They were completely shocked by Zhou Bapi's guess. At this time, Yun Jian pointed to a huge skull on the side of the mountain road. When everyone was still unsure whether the skeleton on the side of the mountain road was a human skeleton, she said indifferently, that's a skull. That's a head. You guys should be able to tell the difference between a human head and an animal head. After Yun Jian's words, Wang Lei directly grabbed the arm of the fatty Zhou Bapi who was closest to her and screamed in fright, "Aw! Aw, aw, aw! It's a human. That's a human skull." What we saw along the way must be human skeletons. What is this place? How could this be? Wang Lei's scream made the other three people, except for Yun Jian, suffocate in fright. Just when Wang Lei and the other three people's hearts were trembling, Yun Jian suddenly turned over and entered the bushes full of human skeletons. This scene could be said to have completely frightened Wang Lei and the other three. She was just a teenage girl. Wasn't she afraid of the skeletons in the bushes? Just thinking about it made their hair stand on end. And what about Yun Jian? She actually jumped directly into the pile of human bones. Originally, Wang Lei thought that she and Zhang Xuanfei's group of 4 had an unspeakable secret. What happened to them was even more shocking. But now, Yun Jian's strange actions were so mysterious that they didn't dare to suffocate. What kind of past had she gone through? Wang Lei and the other 3 were dumbfounded. While he was still in shock, Yun Jian had already jumped out of the bushes full of skeletons. She gently rubbed her right hand as if she was feeling the skeletons that she had just touched. Yun Jian, where did you go just now? Wang Lei asked. As soon as Wang Lei said this, Yun Jian spoke first. The owners of these skeletons all suffered serious injuries when they were alive. You actually know how to perform an autopsy. Dong Wenming, who had been silently holding a laptop in his hand, suddenly looked up at Yun Jian in shock and asked in a daze. Yun Jian nodded slightly. Then, with Yun Jian leading, the group continued to move up the mountain. But because of the things that happened before, when the group continued to move up the mountain, their hearts were suddenly filled with something called horror. Except for Yun Jian, the other 4 people's expressions changed 1,000 times. After another half an hour, the 5 people finally arrived at the top of the Hidden Dragon Mountain. The road up the Hidden Dragon Mountain didn't seem to be very dangerous, but there was a kind of creepy feeling everywhere. It was as if there was something frightening waiting for them. At the top of the Hidden Dragon Mountain was a huge palace. And in front of the palace, there was a large martial arts arena. The architectural style of this large martial arts arena was extremely similar to the martial arts arenas in modern online games. If everything here looked so ordinary as the top of an ordinary mountain, then the large bloodstains on this large martial arts arena gave people a kind of fear that came from the depths of their souls. This large martial arts arena was covered with countless blood. Because no one cleaned it for many years, not only did the dried bloodstains turn into a dark red color, they could even smell the rotten and bloody smell of the dried blood on this large martial arts arena from far away. Wang Lei saw this scene and couldn't help but turn her head and retch. At this moment, everyone saw that in front of the large martial arts arena, more than 10 black-robed people appeared from head to toe. And in front of the black-robed people, stood a woman with an enchanting figure. That woman was clearly the leader of this group of black-robed people. The woman slowly turned around under the gazes of Yun Jian, Wang Lei, and the other 3 people. The moment she saw the woman's face, Yun Jian fiercely frowned in front of Wang Lei and the other 3 people and called out, "Shenji! Calm! Wonderful book house! Calm!" Chapter 26:17. Hidden Dragon Mountain did indeed have a 3rd divine weapon. However, based on the current situation, the 3rd divine tool hidden in Hidden Dragon Mountain must have been taken away by the mysterious person. And this place had been set up with an inescapable net. They were just waiting for Yun Jian to come so that they could capture Yun Jian in one fell swoop. After Yun Jian entered the large arena, a thin layer of spirit energy rose from the semicircular arena. This was enough to prove that the mastermind behind all this was the mysterious person. And the people waiting for Yun Jian here were Shenji and this self-proclaimed younger brother of Master Jiu Huang, whose head had been twisted by Ce not long ago. This black-robed man who claimed to be Master Jiu Huang's younger brother was called Lin Wu. When Lin Wu saw Yun Jian standing in the semicircular barrier surrounded by spirit energy and leaning back, he laughed loudly again. This is the spirit energy that Master has just given me. Combined with the 10,000 times potion, this barrier is created. Even if you are the witch god of Yulong continent, you won't be able to escape. Today, you are dead meat. From the faint layer of spirit energy barrier that clearly didn't belong to Earth, trapping Yunjian to everything that had happened after. It was telling Wang Lei, Zhou Bapi, Zhang Xuanfei, and Dong Wenming that what they were seeing was beyond reality and beyond science. This was like a sci-fi movie. No, it was even more terrifying than a sci-fi movie. Wang Lei and the others were so scared that their faces were twitching. Master Lin Wu, you don't have to do anything to kill her. I alone am enough. Shen Ji, who was standing in the barrier with Yun Jian, spoke up. Shen Ji looked at Yun Jian with murderous eyes. All right. Since you have already received part of my spirit energy, then you, Shen Ji, will be the one to defeat her. Lin Wu narrowed his eyes and looked at Yun Jian like he was looking at a dead person. Shen Ji had received part of Lin Wu's spirit energy. Lin Wu had given it to Shen Ji. Its main purpose was to allow Shen Ji to use the spirit energy he had given her to escape after Shen Ji lured Yun Jian into the large arena. The sorcerer god of Yulong continent would be the only one who would die in this arena. What's more, Lin Wu had used all of his spiritual power to set up the barrier. If Yun Jian managed to escape from the barrier, or if he had to deal with Yun Jian alone, he would only be beaten up by Yun Jian. 006, this is the last time I challenge you. Shen Ji raised her hands. She rested her sword on her shoulder and looked at Yun Jian. Yun Jian held the two butterfly knives in her hands and said cheerfully, I accept your challenge. At this moment, this scene was similar to the battle between Yun Jian and Shen Ji in the Enhan organization, where only one of them could survive. Just like before, they were trapped in a large cage. Only the person who killed the other party had the right to leave the cage alive. The only difference was that the cage had turned into a barrier made of spiritual power. Aside from that, it was still the same battle, the same situation, and the same battlefield where only one of them could survive. Shen Ji waved her sword. Without any warning, she began the battle. She slashed down heavily at Yun Jian. Yun Jian dodged to the side, avoiding Shen Ji's attack. She turned around and wrapped her hand around Shen Ji's arm. Shen Ji flipped around and did a backflip. The two of them were both from the Enhan organization. If they really fought, they were evenly matched. After all, while Shen Ji saw Yun Jian as her only opponent in the world, Yun Jian also saw Shen Ji as her only opponent. The two of them had grown to become the strongest assassins in the world under these circumstances. Wang Lei, Zhang Xuanfei, and the others were so shocked that their hearts were pounding. The two of them fought for a full 5 minutes. Lin Wu watched as Yun Jian dodged Shen Ji's attack and circled behind Shen Ji. She wanted to stab the butterfly knife into Shen Ji's back. Shen Ji had no time to think about anything else. Just as Shen Ji was about to lose, Lin Wu raised his hand and used his spiritual power to control the blades inside the barrier. He attacked Yun Jian. One blade after another was enough to kill Yun Jian before she had time to think about anything else. Lin Wu's smile deepened. Heavens! Yun Jian, run! Wang Lei screamed in fear. However, the blade was already close to Yun Jian's side. Just as everyone thought that Yun Jian was going to die, Shen Ji suddenly turned around and grabbed Yun Jian's wrist. She gripped the long sword in her hand and stabbed it viciously at Yun Jian's neck. The long sword was about to pierce Yun Jian's neck. Just as it was about to pierce Yun Jian's body, Shen Ji used Lin Wu's spiritual energy to open a passage that was big enough for one person to leave swiftly while he tossed the saber away with his other hand and grabbed Yun Jian, flinging her out of the passage that was big enough for one person to leave at once. Shinji flashed a regretful smile at Yunjian the moment his heart was pierced by thousands of arrows. Just like how she had confidently said to Yunjian countless times, I will definitely surpass you. Shinji's seductive face curved up slightly. Countless blades pierced through Shinji's organs. She watched as Yunjian was safely sent out of the barrier. She licked the blood from the corner of her mouth and said regretfully to Yunjian, I lost. After leaving the organization for so many years, I still can't surpass you. I don't think I'll ever have the chance to challenge you again. But I still want to tell you something, 006, I will definitely surpass you. If there's an afterlife, I will. Chapter 26:18. If Lin Wu hadn't tricked her midway, Yunjian's knife would have pierced Shinji's back. Shinji could have used Lin Wu's trick to defeat Yunjian with a sneak attack. She had a choice, a chance to defeat Yunjian. But she wasn't confident. Perhaps in Shinji's eyes, she would only win if she defeated Yunjian fair and square. But she'd spent her entire life chasing after Yunjian. Even at the end of her life, she hadn't been able to surpass Yunjian. She knew that if Lin Wu hadn't interfered, she wouldn't have been able to get close to Yunjian. But she'd lost the last battle. What a pity. She had no more chances. Shinji felt her organs hurt like crazy. Her eyelids felt heavy, as if she could fall asleep at any moment. Being flung out of the barrier, Yunjian knelt on one knee on the ground. Her pupils constricted as the object in her hand rubbed her palm until it was bleeding profusely. As she gripped the item too tightly, blood oozed out of her palm. The blood that flowed from her palm looked like it would never stop, causing Wang Lei, Zhang Xuanfei, and the others who were watching from afar to feel their hearts skip a beat. They'd thought it was just a show of friends betraying each other. Who would have thought that the tables would turn so drastically? Just as Wang Lei, Zhang Xuanfei, and the others sucked in their breaths, thinking that Yunjian would break down and scream like a normal teenage girl after witnessing the scene, Yunjian was stunned. Yunjian suddenly stood up. Her face was still expressionless. She looked up at Shinji, who was in the large arena. Her lips curved into a smile that made the world lose its color. While Wang Lei, Zhang Xuanfei, and the others were surprised that Yunjian could still laugh at a time like this, Yunjian took 2 steps forward. 3 seconds before Shinji closed his eyes for the last time, she mimicked what she had retorted the first time she met Shinji and spoke softly, I'm sorry. No matter how many lives I've lived, you will always be defeated by me. I will wait for you. Remember your promise. My opponent can only be you. Yunjian had never admitted to Shinji that she saw her as an opponent. Because of this, Shinji couldn't accept it. She wanted to surpass Yunjian. She wanted to make Yunjian admit that she saw her as an opponent. Shinji had fought hard for her short life just to prove herself. She did not ask for anything else in her life but for Yunjian to acknowledge her personally. That way, she could die without regrets. Shinji had a dream. A very, very long dream, one that she would never wake up from for the rest of her life. In the dream, 2 8-year-old girls had met for the first time in a cage made of iron. But their first meeting had been met with no other choice. In her dream, she pointed the knife at the other party and swore loudly, the one who can walk out of this cage today is me. Chapter 26:19. Yunjian. Wang Lei said worriedly when she saw that Yunjian was tightly clutching something that she couldn't tell from its appearance. Yunjian's current state scared Wang Lei. If Yunjian's appearance had made Wang Lei and the others feel that she was just a naive teenage girl when they entered the cave, then now, they were filled with doubts about Yunjian. Wang Lei and the others had come to Shrouded Dragon Mountain with a goal in mind. Wang Lei and the others were very mysterious because of their secrets. It was hard to believe even if they were told. But when they saw the scene in front of them, they were shocked. Yunjian's secrets were something that even the secrets in their hearts couldn't compare to. Shinji hadn't betrayed her. He never had. Yunjian was tightly clutching something. It was an ancient bronze wooden hairpin. Wooden hairpins were something that women in ancient times put into their hair to tie it up. The one in Yunjian's hand was the third divine artifact apart from the sandalwood box and wooden fan. It was something that Shinji had secretly stuffed into her hand when he tossed her out of the arena that was enveloped by a huge barrier during her battle with him just now. As soon as the wooden hairpin entered her hand, Yunjian felt a strong spiritual power. It was Xing Feng's aura. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Shinji, you actually betrayed the master. Damn you! When Lin Wu saw this, he was so angry that he went crazy. He clenched his fists tightly, and a wave of spirit energy that was clearly not as strong as before flew out from his body and rushed into the large battle arena that was surrounded by a barrier. Puff puff puff. Shinji's corpse was trapped in the large arena by the powerful barrier. More blades stabbed into it and the corpse was unrecognizable. You actually dared to betray the master. You actually dared to betray me. Die. 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 Lin Wu seemed to have gone crazy. He began to madly destroy Shinji's body. The master that Lin Wu spoke of was undoubtedly the mysterious person. But 3 seconds after Lin Wu destroyed Shinji's body, his spiritual power seemed to be blocked midway. He suddenly stopped in place. Lin Wu's expression changed drastically. It's you who deserves to die. Just as Lin Wu raised his head, he suddenly saw the girl who was standing in the distance slowly walking towards him. The blood that flowed down from her palm splattered all the way, but Yunjian seemed to have lost her sense of pain. Her face was expressionless. Wherever she went, the blood followed. Lin Wu's heart tightened. The 10 black-robed men standing beside Lin Wu attacked Yunjian one after another. At this time, Yunjian's other hand that was not holding the wooden hairpin suddenly rose into the air. Boom boom boom. A spiritual energy that was many times stronger than Lin Wu's condensed in front of Wang Lei and the others. She. Chapter 26-20. Yunjian's words were terrifying, shocking Zhang Xuanfei and the rest as well as Lin Wu. Lin Wu had never been in such a dangerous situation. He felt fear spreading from the bottom of his heart, a fear that came from the depths of his soul spiraling within him. What terrifying ability! If Shinji had not fought Yunjian in the arena just now, killing Yunjian would have been harder than ascending to the heavens. He had overestimated himself. He had underestimated Yunjian. Even if Shinji had not intervened, Yunjian might not have died. Lin Wu took 2 big steps back, turned around, and tried to escape. However, just as Lin Wu was about to turn around and flee, a monstrous spiritual energy enveloped the entire area. There was no way Lin Wu could escape. His eyes widened in fear. You. Lin Wu's exposed pair of pitch-black eyes flashed with an incomparably terrifying color. His pupils shrunk into a ball at this moment. Just as Lin Wu watched Yunjian draw closer to him, Lin Wu's eyes widened. Yunjian, who had been at least a dozen meters away from him, was suddenly right in front of him. Yunjian did have the ability to make cultivators lose all their spiritual energy when they were within 3 meters of her. However, the mysterious person had already developed a potion that could counter her physique, so it was no longer effective to the mysterious person. Lin Wu's pupils contracted violently as he was about to attack Yunjian again. The deicide blade that suddenly appeared in Yunjian's hand was already plunged into Lin Wu's body. She spoke faintly, but her words sent chills down Wang Lei and the rest's spines. Since you don't want to die, I'll slice your flesh into pieces, piece by piece. While Yun Jian had the upper hand here, Yi Ji had just returned home from school in Longmen City. Mom! Mom! The teacher praised me in class today. Yi Ji shouted as soon as she entered. At home, Yi Ji could communicate with Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian in normal language. However, she was still afraid of her classmates in school. The fear of people that came from the depths of her soul and her innate cowardice was something that would never change for Yi Ji. After all, her birth was unnecessary. She was already lucky to be able to live to this day. Your parents are out. Just as Yi Ji dashed into the house, a man's deep voice rang from the side. In the next second, Yuan Xing with a ghost mask appeared before Yi Ji. Oh! Yi Ji was stunned before she ran to the sofa. She tossed her bag down and went out the door, ignoring Yuan. Seeing this, Yuan Jin blinked his eyes and followed. When they arrived at Lan Su's house, Yi Ji opened the door first. As soon as she entered, she hugged Lan Su tightly and then walked towards Zhou Yiran's small room. The little kid and the girl were now playing with Zhou Yu. Yuan Xing saw Yi Ji walk into Zhou Yiran's room and followed her in. However, Lan Su did not see him. At this moment, Zhou Yiran was using the fact that he was taller than the little fellow. He pushed the little fellow aside with one foot and held the little girl with the other hand. He held the little girl in his arms very intimately. Look at what I've brought you guys. Yi Ji took out a few biscuits and passed them to them with a grin. Yuan Xing glanced at the pitiful little kid who was being held by Zhou Yu's toe and suddenly recalled what Xingfeng had told him when he transmigrated back to the present from the future. If you see Zhou Yu, remember to grab him and beat him up. He's always bullied me when I was young. Chapter 26-21. If he guessed correctly, this little guy who was being pressed down by Zhou Yiran's foot was Xingfeng, the one who took charge of everything and traveled through time with him unswervingly. Cough! Yuan Xing looked at the little guy pressed down by Zhou Yiran's foot and compared him to Xingfeng. He almost laughed out loud. But in the end, Yuan Xing suppressed his laughter and coughed softly. He walked over and picked up Zhou Yiran according to Xingfeng's instructions. What are you doing? Are you bullying the child? Let go. Let go. Yi Ji saw Yuan Xing suddenly grab Zhou Yiran. She walked over and grabbed Yuan Xing's sleeve, desperately trying to drag him out of the door. Yuan Xing could only let go of Yi Ji's hand. When he first met Yi Ji was still very afraid of him. He didn't expect Yi Ji to be so bold as to grab him. Yuan Xing narrowed his eyes. Just as he let go of Zhou Yiran's hand, Zhou Yiran slid back onto the bed and angrily kicked Yuan Xing's wrist. With this kick, Yuan Xing's hand was kicked away and landed on Yi Ji's voluptuous breasts. Because he didn't react in time, when he grabbed Yi Ji's chest, Yuan Xing's hand reflexively squeezed. The air was silent for a while. Yuan Xing and Yi Ji were both stunned. When Yi Ji finally reacted, she pushed Yuan Xian's hand away and muttered under her breath as she ran out, "Hooligan! Pervert!" Yuan Xing, who was standing in the same spot, didn't expect this. But that touch was soft. Cough, it was very comfortable. Yun Jian spent an hour cutting Lin Wu into pieces. Wang Lei and the others were already sitting on the ground, completely shocked by the bloody scene in front of them. After cutting Lin Wu into pieces, Yun Jian didn't even look at Wang Lei and the others. She took Shenji's body away and quickly disappeared from their sight. It was as if she had never been to Hidden Dragon Mountain. Shenji was the same as Yun Jian. He was from country Z. Yunjian spent 3 hours to find Shinji's hometown. She still remembered one time, the only time, when she and Shinji had sat shoulder to shoulder and talked all night. Shinji said that other than surpassing her, she also had a dream. She wanted to be buried in her birthplace after she died. She wanted to be buried like a normal person and enter the family tree. Yunjian had been abducted when she was young and entered the Enhun organization. Shinji, on the other hand, had run away from home and joined Enhun of his own free will. Shinji was born in a family that favored boys over girls. Her parents treated her like a slave when she was young, and even called her an adopted daughter. When she was young, she couldn't bear it and ran away from home. Coincidentally, she joined the Enhun organization. However, when she joined the Enhun organization, she did not know that the survival of the organization was so cruel. After Shinji left Enhun, he never looked for his family again. Qinghai City, Haidao Town. Haidao Town was completely different from Xinjiang Town. Most of the residents of Haidao Town relied on fishing for a living. Although it was a town, it was rich in seafood. Furthermore, it was a coastal city, so the economic conditions were not bad. Yunjian held an urn of ashes in her hands and knocked on the door of a courtyard house in Haidao Town. Shinji's family still retained the ancient courtyard house style, and their way of life was still the same. The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law lived together, and the uncle and sister-in-law lived together. Yunjian had seen the woman who opened the door before. She was Shinji's mother, Yunhua. You are? Yunhua glanced at Yunjian and asked casually when he saw that it was a girl who knocked on the door. Yunjian also glanced at Yunhua and was about to enter. I'm taking your daughter to the ancestral hall. The ancestral hall was the place where the clan worshipped their ancestors or sages in ancient times. It was also the place where the clan leader exercised his authority. If ordinary clansmen violated the clan rules, they would be educated and punished here. Clearly, Shinji's family still retained the style of the previous century. Entering the ancestral hall meant that it was an honor for such a family to be buried and enter the family tree. However, Yunhua's expression suddenly changed when she heard Yunjian say, her daughter. She swished in front of Yunjian and said with an extremely ugly expression, who are you? I've never had a daughter. My family only has 3 sons. How can I have a daughter? How dare you talk nonsense in front of someone else's house? I'm going to call the police. Chapter 26-22. When Yunhua said this, her eyes dodged, as if someone had seen through her hidden thoughts for many years. As she spoke, she reached out to hold the door, wanting to lock Yunjian outside. Just as the door was slowly closed by Yunhua until there was only a thin gap left, a long, slender leg suddenly stretched out. A slender, straight, and beautiful leg suddenly stretched out and pressed against the crack of the door, preventing Yunhua from completely closing and locking the door. What's going on? Why are you so strange? It's fine if you go to someone else's house and spout nonsense. But you still want to barge into someone else's house? Just by looking at Yunhua for the first time, Yunhua was not an unreasonable shrew. As a person, she had a bottom line. Yunjian's words had probably touched Yunhua's bottom line, causing her to panic. It was the feeling of a secret that had been hidden for many years suddenly being exposed in front of others. It was like staying up late to play with your phone in school and suddenly being discovered by your mother. Yunhua felt that way at this moment. Yunjian, who had used her foot to block the gap of the door, looked up slightly. Her eyes were cold. Only then did Yunhua look straight into Yunjian's eyes. Her heart involuntarily trembled. Her gaze was too cold. As long as her memorial tablet is placed in the ancestral hall and her name is recorded in the family tree, I'll leave. This was Yun Jian's last wish to fulfill for Shinji. Seeing Yun Jian's unrelenting expression, Yunhua was afraid that this matter would blow up and cause the old master and old madam in charge of the family to rush out when they heard the news. Yunhua gulped. She opened the door and walked out. Then, she closed the door halfway and looked around. Seeing that no one was passing by, Yunhua counted 500 yuan from her pocket and placed it on Shinji's urn that Yun Jian was holding. She pleaded with Yun Jian, "It's not like I'm not a mother. Our Qing family is only allowed to have boys and not girls. If anyone gives birth to a daughter, they will be looked down upon by their husbands and bullied by their mothers-in-law and fathers-in-law." I was also at my wit's end. When the child went missing, I was also afraid. On the day she left, I followed her all the way. In the end, I watched her leave with a man who gave her bread and felt relieved. "You can keep the money. I really don't have any money. If the daughter-in-law of the Qing family hides money, she will be punished according to the family rules. I know I've let the child down, but I have no choice but to ask you for help." Shinji's surname was Qing. The Qing family that Yunhua had mentioned was Shinji's family. Yunhua's lips had been trembling ever since he heard the news of Shinji's death. But after marrying into a feudalistic family, she didn't dare to get a divorce and was even more afraid of losing everything she had now. As the saying goes, a married woman obeys her husband. Yunhua herself was not a person who favored boys over girls. Because she was afraid that she would not live well in her husband's family, she could only obey her in-laws. Yunhua thought that if he gave Yun Jian money, Yun Jian would leave. Unexpectedly, Yun Jian held Shinji's ashes with one hand and threw the money back to her with the other. She said coldly, "I don't want money. I just want her to enter the Qing family's ancestral hall." Yun Jian's persistence made Yunhua anxious. Just as Yunhua was panicking, old Master Cheng's strong male voice sounded from behind the door. "Who do you want to enter my Qing family's ancestral hall?" The half-closed door behind him was opened. An old man in his 70s walked out of the courtyard majestically with a walking stick. His eyes were sharp and his eyes were sparkling. He had the aura of a feudal landlord in ancient times. Behind him was a large group of descendants, all of whom were men. Old Master Cheng looked at Yun Jian with a dignified aura. Under everyone's gaze, he repeated to Yun Jian, "My Qing family doesn't have a biological daughter wandering outside. Moreover, she's just a woman and not the mistress of the family. How can she have the right to enter my Qing family's ancestral hall? She's my biological daughter." Yunhua suddenly burst into tears. 20 years ago, Yunhua gave birth to Shinji. When she realized that she had given birth to a girl, she found a nanny to bring back a stillborn baby and lied to the Qing clan that the child had died. Less than 2 days later, he adopted another child. The child he adopted was actually Yunhua's biological son, Shinji. Later, Shinji couldn't take it anymore. She ran away from home and never came back. Everyone in the Qing clan was stunned by Yunhua's sudden admission. "I've let my child down. But what can I do? What can I do? If you knew that I gave birth to a girl, would I still have a foothold in the Qing clan?" Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 26-24. Yes, if the fact that Yunhua gave birth to a girl was exposed, the Qing family would only think that she was a sow who couldn't give birth to a son. In such a feudal family, if you were judged to be a woman who couldn't give birth to a son, your husband would leave you for another woman. Everyone in the family would look down on you. Yunhua chose to abandon Shinji for her own selfish reasons. She didn't value boys over girls, but she had married into a family that valued boys over girls. She had no other choice. In ancient times, there were even more families like the Qing family, so it wasn't strange. Was this the corruption of morals, or the lack of humanity? At first, Yunhua wouldn't say anything even if she was beaten to death. But since Yun Jian said this, Yunhua understood her father-in-law. She knew that with the old man's personality, he would definitely investigate what happened in the past. Once it was found out, her life would be even more difficult. So, for this, Yunhua chose to admit it herself. Yunhua, you. Yunhua's husband, who was Shenji's biological father, was also stunned when he heard Yunhua's words. The old man and everyone else present were shocked. No one expected that as the child's biological mother, Yunhua would do such a cruel thing for her own selfish desires. I don't care about your family's matters, but I'm going to meditate in the ancestral hall today. Yun Jian held Shenji's urn. After hearing the arguments around her, she didn't move at all. She walked towards the Qing family's ancestral hall. Stop. The old man didn't even have time to resolve the matter. When he heard Yun Jian's words, he rushed to Yun Jian with his walking stick. He blocked Yun Jian's path and said to Yun Jian, even if she really is my granddaughter, I won't allow her to enter the ancestral hall. The Qing family has its own rules. In the Qing family, only the men of the Qing family and the woman who is the mistress of the Qing family can enter the ancestral hall. This sentence was clearly blatant discrimination against women. All the men of the Qing family could enter the ancestral hall and be worshipped by the future generations, but only the mistress of the Qing family had the right to enter the ancestral hall. Yun Jian's eyes were cold. But this wasn't the end. The old man saw that Yun Jian was listening to him, so he added, since ancient times, the men went out to earn money while the women stayed at home. If a woman can be like a man and make a career outside, I have nothing to say about her entering the ancestral hall. But in the 600 years of our Qing family, there has never been a record of a woman being able to make a name for herself outside. So, the old man meant that apart from giving birth to children, to get married, and to follow the mistress of the Qing family, there was no other purpose. Because that was how the Qing family had been for the past 600 years. The old man thought that Yun Jian would stop when she heard that. But the old man was the old man. The old man was stunned, but he nodded. Yes. But she's a girl. How can she? Just as the old man finished speaking, Yun Jian said coldly, come out. Right after she said that, a lot of people appeared on the roof of the courtyard house. They jumped down from the roof and stood beside Yun Jian. Everyone in the Qing family was shocked. Just when everyone was at a loss, Yun Jian suddenly said to everyone, they are all Shenji's men. The ace of the world's largest assassin organization, codenamed Shenji. His net worth is $39 billion US. Is this enough to enter the Qing family's ancestral hall? Everyone from the Qing family stood rooted to the ground. Gun. It was a real gun. It was a real gun that could shoot bullets. Everyone in the Qing family turned pale with fright as they watched the bullet fly towards old Master Cheng's head at lightning speed. A glint flashed in everyone's eyes. In the next second, the bullet collided with a butterfly knife in midair. The butterfly knife collided with the bullet and the friction between the two created a violent spark in the air. In the next second, the impact was offset and it stopped in midair. Then, both of them fell to the ground. Seeing this shocking scene, everyone couldn't stay calm. Everyone looked in the direction of the butterfly knife. Yun Jian walked to the spot where the butterfly knife had collided with the bullet in front of everyone and picked it up from the ground. She turned to the Qing family like nothing had happened and spoke in her usual icy tone, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Don't waste my time. You can't afford it. Don't think that she's dead. Even if she's an ace assassin, she can't do anything to you. I'm sorry, but I came from the same place as her. M. Chapter 26-26. No matter how much the Qing family didn't believe that Shinji was an ace assassin from the world's largest assassin organization, or that Yun Jian said that Shinji's net worth was 39 billion yuan, they had to believe it now. Huan had a gun. A real gun. And Yun Jian said that Huan was Shinji's subordinate. This was enough to prove the authenticity of Shinji's identity. Because no ordinary person could carry a gun at any time. The Qing family did feel lucky for a moment because Shinji had died. After all, he was already dead. No matter how powerful she was in the past, she couldn't do anything to them. But before they could relax, Yun Jian used a butterfly knife to block a bullet. She used a knife. She did things that ordinary people couldn't even dream of. She even stood there and boasted that she came from the same place as Shinji. Then wouldn't Yun Jian's identity be the same as Shinji's? Ha! Huan scoffed when he saw how Yun Jian had saved the stubborn old man of the Qing family with her help. Go and move the things in. Then, just as old Master Qing, Yun Hua, and everyone else in the Qing family trembled in fear, Yun Jian's indifferent voice rang out. Move them in. Move what? Everyone present was bewildered. But just as she said that, the people who had been waiting outside for a long time came in carrying box after box of funerary items. Ignoring the Qing family, Yun Jian held Shinji's urn and placed the memorial tablet she had prepared for Shinji at the highest spot in the ancestral hall under the Qing family's shocked gazes. Wait! Wait! We've discussed it and agreed to place her memorial tablet in the ancestral hall. We'll bury her with glory and record her in the family tree. But the Qing family has its own rules. The highest position in the ancestral hall is reserved for the current head of the Qing family. She's just a direct descendant after all, and she's a girl. Just as Yun Jian took Shinji's tablet and placed it at the highest point in the ancestral hall, a weak middle-aged man's voice sounded. The middle-aged man who spoke weakly was none other than Shinji's biological father and Yunhua's husband, Qingbing. Qingbing's status in the Qing family was very low, and because he was the seventh son of the Qing family's old master, he had many sons and could not be taken care of. In addition, Qingbing himself was weak and incompetent, so he was almost dispensable in the Qing family. This time, Qingbing was called over by old Master Qing. Qingbing didn't dare to disobey his father. Oh, Yun Jian responded softly before Qingbing could finish his sentence. Hearing this, the Qing family members heaved a sigh of relief. Although Shinji's friend had displayed terrifying strength, he shouldn't have reached the point of being unreasonable. In the Qing family's ancestral hall, the highest tablet had always been reserved for the current head of the Qing family. This meant that old Master Qing would only have the right to place his tablet at the highest point after he passed away. Just when everyone thought that Yun Jian was going to compromise, Yun Jian's expression changed. Yun Jian reached out to take Shinji's tablet. She tried to take it down from the highest point. Seeing this, everyone smiled in satisfaction. However, just as her hand was about to touch Shinji's memorial tablet that she had placed at the highest point, her slender and well-defined hand turned abruptly. Bang, bang, bang. Then, a series of bangs rang out. Everyone saw that apart from Shinji's tablet at the highest point in the ancestral hall, all the other tablets of the Qing family's ancestors had been smashed to the ground by Yun Jian. Just as everyone from the Qing family was stunned, Yi Zichen's expression changed. Yun Jian's cold voice suddenly rang out. Since these rules were set by your ancestors, then I'll burn them on behalf of the Qing family. I'm taking this place. But in the end, with Shinji's departure, Yun Jian was the only assassin left who had joined in Hun with her. The winner would survive while the weak would be eliminated. Those who couldn't keep up with the world would be thrown into the abyss by the secular world. This was the order of the assassin agent. Looking at the thick booklet burning page by page, Yunjian felt like she was back when she first joined the assassin organization. All the kids gathered together to discuss strategies. However, it was only that one time. All the children had discussed a strategy together. In a survival game where you had to kill your friends and teammates to survive, everyone had forgotten their original intention. To them, death might be the true release. The moment the book was burned to ashes, Yunjian turned and left without looking back. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 26-28. Before leaving the Qing family, Yunjian had said that as long as she was alive, if the Qing family dared to touch Shinji's memorial tablet or go back on their word, she would definitely take action. Since Yunjian had said that before, the Qing family naturally didn't dare to refute her. After all, Yunjian's identity was very likely to be the same as Shinji's. Or even more powerful than Shinji. Country J was a small country. The people here didn't live a rich life. Because of the bad geography, there were often floods and droughts. Even some of the surrounding powerful countries could easily take over Japan with a wave of their hand, but they couldn't be bothered to do so. This was because Japan was just a small country, and its geographical environment was not attractive at all. But it was a country like this that had the headquarters of the International Assassin website and most of Shinji's forces. The International Assassin website was a platform for assassins to communicate with their employers and accept missions. There must be someone controlling such a website behind the scenes. And its headquarters was in such a backward country. Moreover, Shinji was very close to the boss of the International Assassin website, so all of Shinji's forces were in Country J. Although the Soul Eater organization wasn't in Country J, to Shinji, they weren't that powerful. The money Shinji had earned by risking his life for missions was all in Country J, distributed among his assets in every corner of the country. Headquarters of the International Assassin website. There were no tall buildings in the surrounding area. Only this building, which was at least 30 stories tall, was exceptionally eye-catching. Here, many elites and talents from all over the world worked in this 30-story building. In the conference room, the boss of the International Assassin website stood in the middle of the room, holding a document in his hand. Shinji is dead. The boss whistled as he spoke. The death of an assassin or agent was very normal for the headquarters of the International Assassin website. The death of an assassin or agent meant that her era was over. As mentioned before, no matter how powerful an agent was, once they were found dead, their past would be forgotten. No one would remember her. Even worse. Boss, don't you have a good relationship with Shinji? Don't you feel bad that she's dead? Someone raised an eyebrow, looking very happy. I feel bad. I don't see you guys feeling any heartache. The grand boss raised his hand from the table. He adjusted his tie and walked to the side. Shinji trusted me a lot when she was alive. All her assets and businesses are in Country J, the boss said in front of his subordinates. Boss, what do you mean? Someone below was drooling. He licked his saliva and looked at the final boss expectantly. Regardless of their past achievements, they will still turn to dust after death. As usual, we'll take everything. The boss snapped his fingers. As he spoke, he opened the door of the conference room and walked out. Pack your things. We're going to fight for Shinji's fortune. I'm sure there are already a lot of people internationally eyeing this fat piece of meat that Shinji left behind. First come, first served. We can't fall behind. After the boss finished speaking, he opened the door of the conference room. However, just as the final boss opened the conference room door, everyone suddenly saw a teenage girl standing in front of them like a ghost. The young girl's figure was beautiful. She stood in front of everyone, and when she saw them leave, she raised her head slightly. Under her bangs, the pair of black eyes were so sharp that it was frightening. "You are?" the boss asked. However, the young girl spoke indifferently and said something that shocked everyone. "Number 1 on the International Assassin chart, slaying God. M." Chapter 26-29. When they heard Yun Jian reveal her identity, the group of executives from the International Secret Service Assassin website narrowed their eyes. An unnatural look of surprise flashed across their faces. Slaying God. The final boss glanced at Yun Jian from the corner of his eyes and asked with an unnatural expression. Although the International Secret Service Assassin website was a communication platform that was tied directly to the Secret Service assassins, they did not know any of the Secret Service assassins and Secret Service assassins who accepted missions from their employers on the website. Secret Service assassins and Secret Service assassins were high-risk occupations. Sometimes, even if you had met them, you would put yourself in an abyss of danger. The International Secret Service Assassin website was a platform for employers and Secret Service assassins to get to know each other and make deals. The staff on the website, including the executives, were the final boss and the group of people standing behind him. They earned a cut of the Secret Service assassins' earnings when they accepted missions from the International Secret Service Assassin website. In other words, the more missions the Secret Service assassins accepted on the website, the higher the bounty and the more they earned. As the number 1 Secret Service assassin in the world, slaying God, although the final boss and his group received a small cut of the bounty from Yun Jian, the International Secret Service Assassin website would still earn a lot even if they only received 0.1% of the bounty from Yun Jian's mission, which started at $100 million. Therefore, to the International Secret Service Assassin website, Yun Jian was undoubtedly the biggest crocodile on the website. Cough. However, the final boss reacted quickly. He coughed softly and looked at Yun Jian. He immediately curtsied to Yun Jian with the most standard posture. His attitude was extremely respectful. "Is there anything that you need us to do personally?" Country J's capital, downtown area. In a bar with red lights and green lights. The colorful lights in the bar were so eerie that it made one's eyes blur. The people dancing wildly in the flashing lights seemed to be on steroids as they shook their heads wildly and cheered. Among the crowd, no one noticed a 19-year-old teenage girl from Country Z walking to a corner of the bar with 2 bottles of hard liquor mixed by a mixer. There were more than 10 adult men in their 30s and 40s sitting in the corner of the bar. All of them had creepy tattoos on their hands, faces, and the parts of their bodies that were exposed outside of their singlets. The girl with the hard liquor came to the bar. The dozen or so adult men in their 30s and 40s were still talking without restraint. "Big brother, when are we going to make a move?" Among them, there was a young man in his 20s who looked impatient. He hugged an enchanting woman in her 20s who was sitting on his lap and spoke to a man with a tattoo on his chest. "What's the rush? What should be ours will definitely be ours. Shinji is dead." In this world, aside from Mad Dragon, who came from an Hun with that woman, and a few people who have been in seclusion for many years, there's no one else who has the ability to compete with us. The middle-aged man, who was called Big Brother, had a cigarette in his mouth and 2 beauties in his arms. As he spoke, the middle-aged man patted the buttocks of the blonde beauty sitting on his right. He propped himself up and narrowed his eyes. "Also, I just talked to the people from the International Secret Service Assassin website. This time, we'll work together to seize Shinji's assets. Believe me, this is something that can be obtained with the flip of a hand." As he spoke, the middle-aged man reached out and grabbed the breasts of the beauties on his left and right. His expression was uninterested. "Are there no newcomers here? It's always the same people." There's no novelty at all. Just as the middle-aged man frowned, he suddenly saw a 19-year-old girl walk over with 2 bottles of hard liquor. The words that came out of the girl's mouth made the middle-aged man gulp hard. "Excuse me, these are the whiskey and hard liquor that the gentleman ordered. Would you like me to fill the glasses for the gentleman?" He picked up the pistol at his waist and shot at the girl. At the same time, he shouted, "Don't drink this wine. This woman drugged him." As he spoke, the middle-aged man fired a shot at the young girl. "Ah! Ah!" When the blonde beauty saw this, she and the other beauty covered their ears at the same time. They were so scared that their faces turned pale. However, just when everyone present was so frightened that their faces turned pale, thinking that the young girl holding the tray would definitely die on the spot, the young girl narrowed her eyes deeply. In the next second, she moved sideways to the middle-aged man's side. She wrapped her hand around the middle-aged man's wrist and locked it. She leaned to the side and dodged the bullet shot by the middle-aged man. At the same time, she controlled the handle of the middle-aged man's gun and forcefully slammed the muzzle of the gun into the middle-aged man's group of subordinates who had already drunk the wine and instantly fainted. Bang! The middle-aged man's subordinate was shot in the head by the middle-aged man's gun in his sleep. This shot should have been shot at Yunjian's body. And this move only took Yunjian a short second. In the next second, she wrapped her hand around the middle-aged man's wrist and ruthlessly smashed his wrist joint with one hand. Her other hand, at a speed of 0.5 seconds, directly snatched the middle-aged man's gun from his hand. She lifted her leg and directly kicked the middle-aged man to the ground. The golden-haired beauty, as well as the hostess sitting beside her, were all stunned. They didn't expect that the weak young girl who came to apply for the job yesterday, who looked like she had just entered society, was actually, however, this wasn't the end. Bang, bang, bang. A few gunshots rang out at the entrance. Then, a group of people rushed in, led by the boss of the International Assassin platform. When the middle-aged man saw the boss, he immediately called for help. But before he could call for the boss timidly stood in front of Yunjian and said with a trembling voice, "Are you planning to take all of Shinji's assets? Here you go. Here you go. Take it all. As for the rest of the bastards who want to snatch your assets, the International Assassin platform will definitely hunt them down and kill them all for you." Translation Yun translation Lin Lu translation After placing the 3 divine artifacts together, Ce packed up and planned to hide them in a secluded spot. Just as Ce was about to put the 3 divine artifacts away, a beam of light flashed from the sandalwood box and refracted into a corner of the room where the curtains were drawn. Then, something surprising happened. After the 3 divine artifacts were placed together, a ball of powerful spiritual energy spiraled out of the sandalwood box and solidified, circling above the room and at the corner of the curtains. Then, a blurry figure appeared in front of Yunjian and Ce. And the owner of that projection was none other than the owner of that phantom. Xingfeng. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2632. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. On the eve of the big battle, he retched again. End 1. The illusory figure was like a high-tech projection in a sci-fi movie. When Yunjian and Ce saw it, they looked at each other and stared at the figure that was conjured in front of them. At this moment, Xing Feng looked like he was in a deep sleep. His eyes were tightly shut and he didn't move at all. But the moment the projection projected him, his long eyelashes flickered. The next moment, his eyes, which looked like they had been in a deep sleep for half his life, slowly opened. What entered his vision was a young man in his early 20s. He looked very similar to CE, like a handsome young man who had walked out of a manga. His skin was even more delicate than a baby's, as if it could be broken with a flick of a finger. But because he had inherited CE's excellent genes, his delicate skin didn't lack the charm of a man, nor did he look like a fake man. It could be said that because he had inherited Yunjian and CE's strengths, Xing Feng's looks had reached the point where it could shock the world at first glance. When Xing Feng saw Yunjian and CE's faces, he became excited and wanted to walk towards them. Sha, but just as Xing Feng was about to walk towards Yunjian and CE, the anklet on his feet stopped him from moving forward. Father! Mother! Xing Feng shouted at Yunjian and CE. As he spoke, tears of sincerity flowed down from the corners of his eyes. They didn't need to look to know that this was the little fellow who had grown up, Si-Wan. When they saw that Xing Feng's anklet had been shackled, Yunjian and CE's faces darkened even more. Xing Feng wanted to say something, but he suddenly thought about it. He didn't have much time to reminisce. In order to prevent his future parents from making the same mistakes, Xing Feng shouted at Yunjian and CE, Yuan Yi must have known about this. I'm sure Yuan Xing has already told you about my identity. I was captured by a mysterious person, and I'm currently locked up in a place with an unknown location. You must have used the 3 magical artifacts that I left behind to see me. This conversation can only last for 10 minutes, so I'll make it short. 10 minutes later, Xing Feng disappeared. Seeing that, Yunjian's heart tightened. She clenched her fists and looked at CE. CE nodded slightly at her. From the conversation just now, Yunjian and CE had already grasped the exact location where the mysterious person had locked Xing Feng up. This was going to be a battle of life and death, but for the sake of her child, Yunjian had to go. Whether she could come back alive was still an unknown. Yunjian and CE agreed to go to the battlefield 3 days later. This time, they must eradicate the mysterious person from this world. On the second day, Yunjian was called out by Qinsini. She was about to leave. This time, she did not know if she could come back alive. In spite of it, Yunjian still went to Qinsini's appointment. Jian, what should I do? My family found out that Xiaofang and I are dating. They want me to break up with him, Qinsini told Yunjian with a troubled expression. As she spoke, she took a bite of the drumstick in her hand. Looking at Yunjian's troubled expression and silence, Qinsini was stunned before she passed a drumstick to Yunjian. Jian, do you want some? Yunjian, who was frowning, suddenly felt nauseous when she caught a whiff of the drumstick Qinsini passed to her. She covered her mouth and turned away to retch again. P.S. That's all for today. Good night, everyone. Wax, did you see the title? Ah, it's almost over. Oh, __. Oh. Chapter 2633. Jian, what's wrong? Does your stomach hurt? Seeing that Yunjian had turned her head to the side abruptly like she was agitated by something and started retching, Qinsini stood up quickly and strode to Yunjian's seat, patting Yunjian's back with a worried frown. I'm fine. Yunjian took Qinsini's hand, but her heart skipped a beat. Ever since she gave birth to the little boy and girl, she knew how to use contraception when they did it together. She was no longer the inexperienced little girl who knew how to protect herself. She would not repeat the mistake of being tricked by the mysterious person because she did not know that she was pregnant. Jian, you're not pregnant again, are you? Qinsini suddenly recalled Yunjian's symptoms. Qinsini was studying medicine in university. Although she had yet to graduate, she would have chosen this major for nothing if she did not know the general knowledge as a future doctor. Yun Jian's hands froze when she heard Chen Sini's words. Chen Sini waved at Yun Jian, as if she had forgotten her worries. She pulled Yun Jian's hand with a smile and pressed her index and middle fingers on Yun Jian's wrist like an experienced Chinese physician, pinching the joints of Yun Jian's wrist gently. Let me take a look. Your pulse is jumping non-stop. I think it's very likely that you're pregnant. Jian, you can't go wrong trusting me. I'm from a medical school after all. The scene changed to the outpatient room of Longmen City People's Hospital. Your symptoms are due to the oily food you've been eating recently. You must have swallowed it without chewing carefully, right? Write more bland things these few days. Remember, you must chew and swallow slowly when you eat next time. Here is the medical record. You can prescribe the medicine now. The doctor in the outpatient room, who was wearing a pair of heavy, thick, and cumbersome glasses, reached out his right hand and gently lifted his glasses frame. He pushed the medical record book to Yun Jian with his left hand. Chen Sini pursed her lips as she stood at the side, pursing her lips. She had some skills. Chen Sini wanted to inherit the old profession passed down from her ancestors, so she chose to major in medicine. But based on the current situation, she had clearly learned the ancient Chinese medicine techniques from her grandfather, so why couldn't she figure it out? Cough, cough, cough. Of course, it was better not to let others know about this kind of miscalculation and disgrace. After all, she was determined to become a famous doctor in the future. Chen Sini and Yun Jian took the medicine and walked out of the hospital. These days, Yun Jian indeed had no appetite, so when she ate, she would wolf down her food and finish it carelessly. It was only when Ce was around that she would chew slowly. As soon as he walked out of the hospital, he saw two people walking towards him. It was Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen. Sini, why are you in the hospital? Are you hurt? Or? Zhang Xiaofeng asked Chen Sini loudly just as he walked over. They had not seen each other for a few days as they were forced to separate by their families. It's not me, it's Jian. Chen Sini mumbled. Are you okay? Ling Yichen, who stood beside Zhang Xiaofeng, scratched his head and asked in a friendly manner as a friend. I'm fine. Yun Jian shook her head. Jian, you must take good care of yourself. The doctor said that if you don't take good care of your stomach, you'll have major problems in the future. Chen Sini looked at Yun Jian worriedly. Just as Chen Sini finished her words, however, she saw a slender and handsome man walking over from the opposite side of the road. He was still incomparably handsome, but at this moment, there was a trace of gloominess on his handsome face. It was Ce. When Ce walked over with his long strides, he seemed to have heard some important news as he grabbed Yun Jian's wrist and dragged her away with a look that those who did not know better would think that he was a domestic abuser who was about to abuse his wife. His action startled two elderly people who were about to walk out of the hospital while supporting each other in their hospital gowns. They rushed over to hold Ce back. Hey, young man. Let's talk nicely. You can't hit a woman. Let go. Chapter 2635. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. Yun Jian admitted that if anyone knew about this, she would probably die of embarrassment. He actually thought of such a way to make her chew her rice slowly. Yun Jian couldn't even see through Ce. Where was his usual aloofness? Where did he go? Why did he? The day was still long, but at this time and place, it was extremely beautiful. On the third day, Yun Jian and Ce went to Qin Yiru's house first. They took a look at the little guy and the little girl, kissed their foreheads, and left quietly while the two little guys were still sleeping. Just as Yunjian and Ce were about to get into Ce's Lamborghini, a magnetic male voice sounded behind them. "Is it convenient for you to join us?" The two of them turned around and saw Yuan Axayan, who was wearing a ghost mask, standing beside the Lamborghini. Yuan Axayan lightly patted the Lamborghini and smiled at Yunjian and Ce. Yunjian tilted her head and leaned towards the back seat of the Lamborghini, pursing her lips. "Get in." The biggest difference between Yunjian's Ferrari and the Lamborghini was that the Ferrari didn't have a single back seat. Even though the Lamborghini didn't have a back seat door, the back seat was still a little narrow. For people like the little guy and the little girl, sitting in the back seat of the Lamborghini, other than having less space to move around compared to a normal car, there was no other difference. However, for someone like Yuan Axayan, who was 1.8 meters tall, sitting in the back seat of the Lamborghini, Yuan Axayan's body was curled up and he couldn't even straighten his back. He was like those acrobats who were put into a big box. Other than being able to move his hands and feet, his neck was crooked when he was put into the box. His neck was crooked and he couldn't move at all. Imagine a man who was 1.8 meters tall, wearing a ghost mask, squeezing into the back seat of an indescribably narrow sports car. What kind of scene would that be? "Wait, are you going to let me sit in this car for more than 20 hours? Yuan Axayan saw that he was sitting in the back seat of the Lamborghini and couldn't stretch his arms. He was stunned for a moment, then he seemed to resist. "I'll get out of the car and find a car that can drive to follow you." Yuan Axayan rolled his eyes. Even though the Lamborghini had a back seat, because the structure of the Lamborghini translation, the back seat wasn't suitable because of the design of the car. The translation. If Yuan Axayan wanted to get out, he would step on the driver's seat and the passenger's seat. Once you're in the car, you're not allowed to get out. Yunjian, who was sitting in the passenger's seat, smiled evilly. As if responding to Yunjian's words, Ce locked the door, and the car sped to the road at the fastest speed. In the next second, he disappeared from where he stood. Only Yuan Axayan was left to roar in exasperation. "No wonder my father said that you two are simply demons." Demons. Ce drove for more than 20 hours, overtaking countless cars on the way, and finally arrived at the destination. Yuan Axayan's back was hunched when he got out of the car. "It's here." Yunjian pointed to a forest on the side of the road and said. Since they had arrived at the destination, Yuan Axayan's eyes began to darken. "I don't know how to get there, but there must be someone strange nearby. As long as we find the person, we can find the way to the future." Yes, they were going to the future world. Because the mysterious man came here from the future world. Translator, Transin Editor, Transin. Chapter 2636. Originally, they were still dubious about the mysterious man's origin. However, after talking to Xing Feng, Yunjian and Ce finally understood. They understood what even Yuan Jin did not know. This matter was very complicated. It was not a coincidence that Xing Feng and Yuan Jin could come here from the future world. After all, Yunjian and Ce were so powerful, but they could not travel through time. Yuan Jin could open the space-time door because there was a strange power in the depths of this forest. As long as you had a little bit of spiritual power, you could open the space-time door. Only the powerful could control the space-time you wanted to go to. Xing Feng had strong spiritual energy, so he was able to control himself from losing control. However, Yunjian and Ce could not find the mysterious man's hiding place because the mysterious man was not from this world. Like Xing Feng, he came from the future. However, before the mysterious man became a mysterious man, he was just a very ordinary person. In other words, in the future world, the mysterious man traveled to the era before the dominator of the deity continent was born. No matter how many years had passed, he could always return to the original time of the future world. If one wanted to say that Yunjian and Ce could find the mysterious man in the present world and kill him before he became a mysterious man, it was indeed possible. If they could find him in the present world and kill him before he became a mysterious man, then everything about the mysterious man traveling through time and space to the deity continent and what happened later would not have happened. However, the mysterious man was very cunning. He seemed to have known that his identity would be exposed, so he always showed up in a black robe. No matter how powerful Yunjian and Ce were, they could not find out what kind of existence the mysterious man was on Earth before he became a mysterious man. Therefore, in order to find the root of everything, they had to go to the future world. Only then could they solve all the mysteries and kill the mysterious man completely. I'll go ask around and see if anyone who knows where to go in and out of this forest has noticed anything unusual. Yuan Lin reached out his hand and shook his head from left to right. The bones on his pillow made a cracking sound. Okay. Yun Jian nodded. Hearing this, Yuan Jin walked to the nearby village. This was a foreign country, a border area that did not belong to any country. The people who lived here lived in tribes, and they all lived in thatched huts. There was no other name for this forest. For the time being, it was called the Spacetime Forest. 15 minutes later, Yuan Jin came back with the residents of a nearby village. When the residents of this village arrived, the village chief said, "Something strange is indeed happening here." "Oh, the forest near us." Chapter 2637. Originally, they were still dubious about the mysterious man's origin. However, after talking to Xing Feng, Yun Jian and Ce finally understood. They understood what even Yuan Jin did not know. This matter was very complicated. It was not a coincidence that Xing Feng and Yuan Jin could come here from the future world. After all, Yun Jian and Ce were so powerful, but they could not travel through time. Yuan Jin could open the spacetime door because there was a strange power in the depths of this forest. As long as you had a little bit of spiritual power, you could open the spacetime door. Only the powerful could control the spacetime you wanted to go to. Xing Feng had strong spiritual energy, so he was able to control himself from losing control. However, Yun Jian and Ce could not find the mysterious man's hiding place because the mysterious man was not from this world. Like Xing Feng, he came from the future. However, before the mysterious man became a mysterious man, he was just a very ordinary person. In other words, in the future world, the mysterious man traveled to the era before the dominator of the deity continent was born. No matter how many years had passed, he could always return to the original time of the future world. If one wanted to say that Yun Jian and Ce could find the mysterious man in the present world and kill him before he became a mysterious man, it was indeed possible. If they could find him in the present world and kill him before he became a mysterious man, then everything about the mysterious man traveling through time and space to the deity continent and what happened later would not have happened. However, the mysterious man was very cunning. He seemed to have known that his identity would be exposed, so he always showed up in a black robe. No matter how powerful Yun Jian and Ce were, they could not find out what kind of existence the mysterious man was on Earth before he became a mysterious man. Therefore, in order to find the root of everything, they had to go to the future world. Only then could they solve all the mysteries and kill the mysterious man completely. I'll go ask around and see if anyone who knows where to go in and out of this forest has noticed anything unusual. Yuan Lin reached out his hand and shook his head from left to right. The bones on his pillow made a crisp cracking sound. Okay. Yun Jian nodded. Hearing this, Yuan Jin walked to the nearby village. This was a foreign country, a border area that did not belong to any country. The people who lived here lived in tribes, and they all lived in thatched huts. There was no other name for this forest. For the time being, it was called the Spacetime Forest. 15 minutes later, Yuan Jin came back with the residents of a nearby village. When the residents of this village arrived, the village chief said, "Something strange is indeed happening here." "Oh, the forest near us. It's been very safe since ancient times. There are no wild beasts and everyone goes into the forest to chop firewood. But last week, we went into the forest and never came back. We felt that something was wrong, so we sent another 3 people to look for him, but there was no news. They all went missing. Everyone thought that this was a punishment bestowed upon our village by the forest god's wrath." When the village chief said this, his whole body was trembling violently. But as soon as he finished speaking, a villager suddenly ran out from the side and shouted loudly in a frightened voice, "Brother Zhao, you've been killed. Village chief. I found a Hui and the others near the forest. They were covered in blood and left outside the forest." Calm. Wonderful book house. Ce covered his face with his cap and held Yunjian's hand. When they came to a fork in the road, they were blocked by a group of people with arms akimbo, as if they were going to fight. Ce didn't want to cause trouble, so he took Yunjian to a detour. Who would have thought that the group would block Yunjian and Ce again? The leader of the group looked at Yunjian from head to toe and spoke like a ruffian, "You're right. Girl, I heard that you dress very shabbily at school. You've become famous in just 2 days. People in the school are talking about you like crazy. Hurry up, take off your mask and let me see what you look like." Translator, Henyi Translations Editor. Chapter 2639. Part 1, page 1/1. The leader of the group shook his legs. It was obvious that he wasn't a student of this university. He was most likely a hooligan. He didn't belong to any gangs. Therefore, this ruffian boy would at most drag his buddies along with him. Usually, when he was unhappy with someone, he would get into a group fight with them to show off his power. Above the black mask, Yunjian's sharp eyes flashed slightly. Seeing that Yunjian and Ce didn't say anything, the leader of the group laughed cruelly and walked over to forcefully pull off Yunjian's mask. But just as he reached out his hand, halfway through, a slender palm blocked his path. Immediately after, 2 gotcha sounds of the bones in his palms breaking could be clearly heard. Ow, ow, ow. The ruffian boy screamed in pain. F***ck. Are you all just going to watch me get bullied? Go. F***ck. The hooligan's wrist was grabbed by Ce, and the bones in his hand were broken. As he howled like a pig, he called for his buddies to come over and help. As soon as the boy shouted, more than 10 boys around him were enraged. They all rushed towards Yunjian and Ce to surround them. 1 minute later, more than 10 boys were thrown to the ground by Yunjian and Ce. More than 10 boys howled like pigs. In 2019, law and order were very good. When the boys led a group of people to surround Yunjian and Ce, someone had already called the police. 10 minutes later, everyone was sitting in a nearby police station. Name. A female police officer held a registration book and asked the leader of the group that surrounded Yunjian and Ce. Zhang Xiaosan. The boy touched his hand that had been broken by Ce and replied dejectedly. Pfft, ha 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 ha. The boy, who was one of Zhang Xiaosan's close friends, couldn't help but laugh out loud the moment he heard his name. F***ck, what are you laughing at? Zhang Xiaosan glared at his brother with a dispirited look. 20 minutes later, the group left the police station. Before they left, Zhang Xiaosan and his gang were severely criticized by the police. Yun Jian and Ce left the police station without saying a word. At this moment, Zhang Xiaosan touched his hand and brought his men to surround them. I've never been beaten up like this in my entire life. Zhang Xiaosan brought his men and surrounded him again. This was the first thing he said. More than 10 of Zhang Xiaosan's buddies, including Zhang Xiaosan, were beaten black and blue by Yun Jian and Ce. Brother. Sister. I, Xiaosan, have decided that you are my brothers. Zhang Xiaosan patted his chest with the hand that hadn't been broken by Ce and said loudly to Yun Jian and Ce. Yun Jian glanced at Zhang Xiaosan with her sharp eyes and didn't say anything. She didn't intend to pay attention to him. But Zhang Xiaosan's next words attracted Yun Jian's attention. Brother, sister. From now on, you two are my ancestors. Needless to say, I, Zhang Xiaosan, have the best power in this area. If you need any help, just let me know. After he finished speaking, Yun Jian and Ce looked at each other and nodded at Zhang Xiaosan. In this era, Yun Jian and Ce had no power. Everything had to start from scratch. But, as the former king, even if they started from scratch, they would still be invincible. At Yun Jian's request, Zhang Xiaosan quickly helped to search for information about the mysterious man. Book Guesthouse Reading Website. Chapter 2640. Speaking of which, Zhang Xiaosan's influence was not small. He contacted a group of his friends from various places and actually searched the entire Zhe province. Hey, I heard a piece of news. I heard that there was an abandoned teaching building near our university. There was a man in a black robe, with only a pair of dark eyes exposed. I don't know if he's the one you're looking for. Brother, sister. If you want to go, I'll lead the way for you. Zhang Xiaosan patted his shoulder and said. Let's go. Yun Jian nodded simply. Zhang Xiaosan rushed out of the door as if he was dealing with his own business. Thank you, Xiaosan. Just as Zhang Xiaosan was about to step out of the door, Yun Jian's intimate address scared Zhang Xiaosan so much that he slipped and fell to the ground. Sister. You can call me Sansan or Zhang in the future. Can you drop the word Xiaosan? I beg you, sister. Zhang Xiaosan said with a bitter face. Yun Jian just nodded slightly and said nothing. At 7:00 in the evening, Yun Jian met up with Zhang Xiaosan and the others alone. Yuan Jin had some influence in this world. Ce planned to use Yuan Jin's influence to take back the forces that had been scattered by the death of Yun Jian and Ce in the future world. Needless to say, Ce really had the ability to do so. Using a small force to swallow a big force. Starting from scratch, Ce would still be the king. The ruler of the divine continent, the divine emperor. Because the search for the mysterious man could not be limited to Zhe province or country Z. It required connections, financial resources, and power. Coming here, Yun Jian and Ce did not plan to get rich in one go and find the mysterious person at once. Since they were sure that the mysterious man was here, it was only a matter of time before they found him. Yun Jian met up with Zhang Xiaosan and the others alone. Sis, you're here. Zhang Xiaosan chuckled at Yun Jian. Yun Jian nodded and led the way to the abandoned school building. Why are you here? Just as Yun Jian was walking towards the abandoned school building, she heard Zhang Xiaosan shouting behind her. Since you're here, why can't I be here? The voice of a female university student came from behind. Yun Jian just turned sideways and gave him a sidelong glance. The person who came was actually one of the girls who had commented in front of the coffee shop not long ago that their university had produced a rustic girl who dressed like she was from the year 2000. This girl's name was Fong Lingli, and she was a very clever girl. Behind Fong Lingli was a group of girls. It seemed like they were here to join in the fun. Coincidentally, Fong Lingli was Zhang Xiaosan's girlfriend. At this moment, when Fong Lingli saw Yunjian, she couldn't help but narrow her eyes. She took the lead and pointed at Yunjian. Zhang Xiaosan pointed at Zhang Xiaosan and said to Zhang Xiaosan, "Why did you call her here? Don't you know that she's the weirdo in our university?" As Fong Lingli spoke, she grabbed Zhang Xiaosan's shirt and took 2 big steps back. However, just as Fong Lingli and the others were done talking, Yunjian suddenly saw a figure coming from behind them. The owner of that silhouette, she was. Seeing this, Yunjian's eyes flickered. Without saying a word, she suddenly removed her black mask in front of everyone. 3 years ago, when news of the death of the top international secret agent, slaying God, spread, everyone in the world knew about it. It had been 3 years since slaying God's death, but her reputation had never faded. It was said that the existence of assassins and secret agents was like fireworks after her death. After being dazzling, it would fade away. However, slaying God's death was like a reminder to people. No matter how many years had passed, her existence was enough to make people tremble in fear. She had become an eternal legend in the world of assassins and secret agents. Moreover, when slaying God died, all the major international newspapers were filled with her looks for an entire year. When Yunjian removed her black mask, everyone saw Yunjian's face. With Zhang Xiaosan and Fong Lingli in the lead, everyone stared at Yunjian. Suddenly, their pupils dilated and they exclaimed, "Why you? Why you? Aren't you the top international secret agent, slaying God who died 3 years ago?" Chapter 2641. Slaying God, who had died in 2016 and was ranked number 1 on the International Secret Agent Assassin ranking. Although Fong Lingli and the rest were from the same school as Yunjian, they had been discussing Yunjian's looks in front of the cafe not too long ago. However, no one had actually seen Yunjian's face before. This was because Yunjian had been wearing a black mask ever since she transferred to university. However, they could vaguely tell from her facial features that Yunjian was not ugly. That was why people said that she must be a plastic surgery freak. However, when the black mask on Yunjian's face was removed, everyone was stunned. However, Yunjian ignored their shock. She hung the black mask by her ear and took 2 steps forward with her long legs. She saw a woman standing behind Zhang Xiaosan, Fong Lingli, and the rest. The woman was dressed in a flamboyant outfit and looked sexy and seductive. The woman was tall and slender. In 2019, she was already in her 30s. She and Yunjian, who was not even in her 20s, looked at each other in front of Zhang Xiaosan, Fong Lingli, and the rest. Fong Lingli, Zhang Xiaosan, and the rest who had recovered from the shock were secretly comforting themselves. It was probably just a coincidence that Yunjian looked similar to a dead person. When Yunjian and the woman in her 30s looked at each other, Zhang Xiaosan, Fong Lingli, and the rest were shocked again. Why did Yunjian and the woman look at each other and feel like they had crossed time and space? Who's this woman? Fong Lingli glanced at the woman in her 30s and used her manicured hand to tuck her hair gently. She should be my sister's friend. Just watch quietly and don't talk nonsense. Zhang Xiaosan grabbed Fong Lingli and addressed Yunjian as his sister. Perhaps due to Yunjian's terrifying face, Fong Lingli and the group of female university students who were with Fong Lingli kept their mouths shut. At that moment, Zhang Xiaosan and the rest of the delinquents, Fong Lingli, and the group of female university students saw Yun Jian stop when she was about 3 meters away from the woman in her 30s. They thought that the two of them were old friends who had not seen each other for a long time and that they would extend their arms and hug each other tightly like normal teenage girls. This was something that only normal people would do. Who knew that when Yun Jian was 3 meters away from the woman, she would suddenly stop? She suddenly pulled out a fruit knife from her waist, replacing the butterfly knife that she was good at, and dashed toward the woman. Zhang Xiaosan, Fang Lingli, and the rest were shocked when they saw that. Oh my God! Sister! Elder, please be careful, the blade does not have eyes, it can kill. Zhang Xiaosan was so scared that he kept shouting. How was this meeting an old friend? This was clearly a meeting between two enemies, and their eyes blazed with hatred. Fang Lingli and the others were all students. In the peaceful era of 2019, who would still use knives and guns? Shangzis's SSS. Yun Jian was playing with her life. However, just as Yun Jian's knife was about to pierce the woman's heart, the knife flashed and a long knife was pushed out from the woman's wrist. The long knife blocked Yun Jian's knife. When the two collided, there was a series of sparks. Yun Jian's lips curled up at that moment. She said, "You're still alive." The woman on the other side also smiled and replied with a reply that shocked everyone present, "You too." This woman in her 30s was none other than Ji Yi. She was Shen Ji, who had died in 2004. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2642. As for why Shen Ji was still alive in 2019. Have you ever heard of a time machine? Some people could open the door of time and space, travel to many years ago, and change history. Shen Ji was still alive in 2019, but Shen Ji was already dead in the year Yun Jian was born in 2004. Did this mean that Shen Ji could be resurrected after his death in 2004? Of course, all of this was still unknown. Yun Jian came to Country Z in 2019 from 2004 to change the future. The future could be changed. After all, the beginning of everything was the mysterious man's return to the starting point of Lord God, which changed everything. If the mysterious man had not accidentally gone to the divine continent in 2019, Yun Jian, as the witch goddess, would not have been attacked, and Ce, as the immortal, would not have sacrificed his life to save her. The two of them would not have fallen to the earth. In general, this was the only point. It was the mysterious man who accidentally went to the divine continent and attacked Yun Jian, and Ce and Yun Jian both fell to the earth. What happened later was not much different from what Yun Jian had experienced, except for the absence of the sandalwood box, wooden fan, and wooden hairpin. The only difference was that Yun Jian and Ce gave birth to Ce Luo. After Ce Luo grew up, Yun Jian and Ce died together with the mysterious man, and only Ce Luo and Yuan Jin survived. By chance, Ce Luo found out that the mysterious man was reborn in the era he lived in and went to the divine continent. When the mysterious man was at large in Yun Jian's era, Ce Luo, who had not yet become a mysterious man, also existed in the world. However, the mysterious man only showed a pair of dark eyes, and his whole body was covered in a black robe, so Ce Luo could not kill him as early as 2004, before the mysterious man found a way to go to the divine continent. Ce Luo went to the divine continent with the mysterious man in the future when the mysterious man had just become a mysterious man and found the passage to the divine continent. In general, Yun Jian had experienced 2 repetitive lives. She had no impression of the first repetitive life. Everything is complicated to say, but you just need to remember one thing. From 2004, Yun Jian and Ce traveled through time and space to 2019, just to find the mysterious man and kill him, so as to change the future of herself, Ce, and everyone else who perished together with the mysterious man. Even if her and Siyi's deaths were already a foregone conclusion. However, the future could be changed. My life is in my hands and not in the hands of the heavens. She, Yunjian, was going to defy the heavens and take control of her own luck. Inside the cafe, Yunjian put on the black mask again. Shinji also wore a hat. Zhang Xiaosan, Fang Lingli, and the others stood like bodyguards beside the table where Yunjian and Shinji were staring at each other, about 10 meters away. Shinji didn't seem to know about this. She raised her eyebrows and asked Yunjian, "So you're saying that I died in 2004? Yunjian responded softly. Shinji raised her eyebrows and looked at Yunjian. She said half-jokingly, "In my current world, you, 006, are also a dead person. Do you know how shocked I was when I heard that you were dead? I can't believe you, 006, will die one day." Ha! Shinji's words were a little harsh, but Yunjian knew she was joking. Yunjian pressed her lips together and asked in return, "Then it's your turn to explain why you were with the mysterious man's underling in 2004. Shinji nodded and smiled. She told Yunjian honestly, "Because I owed him a favor. But I want to know my character. I wouldn't have hurt you in the past, would I?" Chapter 2643. You didn't harm me. You even saved my life. Yunjian stood up and crossed her arms in front of her chest with a smile on her face. After a while, she continued to ask, "Which means you know the identity of the mysterious man. Who is he?" The corners of Shinji's lips twitched at the mention of this. That guy is very cunning. He knows that he was just an ordinary earthling before he took on his current identity. He's afraid that he'll be killed in another time and space. He didn't send anyone to protect himself as an ordinary person in another time and space. That's why he didn't expose himself at all. When Shinji said this, the twitch of his lips was tinged with anger. Yunjian's eyes dimmed at his words. However, what Shinji said next caught Yunjian's attention. "But I know that the guy has a weakness that outsiders don't know about." Shinji's words made Yunjian's eyes narrow. After leaving the cafe, Zhang Xiaosan, Fang Lingli, and the others kept their mouths shut. It was as if they had found out something that should not be leaked to the outside world, as they did not publicize anything about Yunjian. After the future Yunjian died, all the forces under her were taken over by Shinji alone. They did not fall into the hands of outsiders. Shinji had even asked Yunjian if she wanted to return her forces to her, but Yunjian had declined decisively. She only asked Shinji to help find the mysterious man's whereabouts. Her purpose in coming to the future was to kill the mysterious man and nothing else. During the weekend, Yunjian took the high-speed rail back to Longmen City from the university. There was no high-speed rail in 2004, but with Yunjian's understanding, she quickly learned how to buy tickets with her smartphone. The Longmen City of 2004 and 2019 had undergone drastic changes. Whether it was the streets, the alleys, the city scale, or the people's living conditions, everything had changed drastically. Based on Longmen City's economic situation in 2019, every household could afford a car now. Yunjian tightened her black mask and arrived at a familiar yet strange home, Qin Yiru's home. Yunjian and Ce had died in the battle, but Qin Yiru, Gu Junjian, and the others were still alive. When he arrived at the door, he saw Qin Yiru, who was already in her 50s or 60s, bending over to sweep the fallen leaves on the ground. Because of her old age, Qin Yiru had to use her other hand to support her waist when she bent down. His back looked lonely and desolate. Yunjian clenched her fists. She had no intention of going forward to acknowledge him. At this moment, a passerby suddenly threw a bunch of bananas into Chin Yiru's house. The bunch of bananas hit Chin Yiru hard. Bah! The murderer's mother. A man who passed by suddenly spat at Chin Yiru in the yard. The woman beside the man tugged at the passerby and said fearfully, "That's slaying God's mother after all." What if? Slaying God is already dead. Ha! How dare a woman flaunt her power to this extent? There's nothing left if she's dead. It's good enough that I didn't have *King rush in and beat slaying God's mother up. Look at slaying God's mother. Her leg isn't working. Wasn't it crippled by someone earlier? Without slaying God's support, she's nothing. The man spat and pulled the woman beside him, who was his girlfriend, away. They had just turned into an empty alley. The man was holding the woman's hand as they walked forward happily. Suddenly, a slender girl wearing a black mask appeared in front of them. *CK. Who are you? What the hell are you doing? The man was startled and cursed. After that, the man pulled the woman, wanting to go around the girl in front of them and leave. However, just as the man was about to go around the girl suddenly took off her black mask, revealing her true face. Just as the man and woman were so frightened that their faces turned pale, they saw the young girl turn her head to look at them. But out of nowhere, she uttered the last sentence the man and woman heard in their lives, "Weren't you talking about me so enthusiastically just now? Why? Can't you guess who I am after seeing my face? Chapter 2644. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, Part 1, Part 2, Page 1/1, Slaying. 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 Slaying God. The man did not even have time to recover from his shock. He gasped for air as he exclaimed. His rosy cheeks were now replaced by paleness and horror. Isn't slaying God dead? Didn't the media release slaying God's face after her death? The woman was pale with fright as well. She gripped the man's hand so hard that she could break his skin. However, when she recalled what they had done earlier, tap, tap, it was a quiet and deserted alley surrounded by residences. Since it was 1 or 2 in the afternoon, the residents had either gone out to have fun or were taking a nap at home. At this time, the originally quiet alley was the most deserted. Yunjian's long white shoes stepped lightly on the ground. She looked like a grim reaper who had just opened the gates of hell and stepped over thousands of corpses. Her sharp eyes glanced sideways at the man and woman. You. I'm telling you. This is a lawful society. If you dare do anything to me. Me. If you dare kill me. There will be evidence left at the crime scene. This is a high-tech society. If you kill me, they'll definitely find out that you're the murderer. If you're caught, you'll be sent to jail. Lay down your knife and become a Buddha. I advise you to be kind. The man's voice was trembling as he spoke. His grip on his girlfriend's hand loosened unknowingly. Just as Yunjian was about to reach him, the man grabbed his girlfriend and hugged her tightly, trying to pull her to him. However, Yunjian handed him a piece of white paper and a black pen. Write down all the people and addresses you know who bullied Chin Yiru's family and I'll let you go. Yunjian's words made the man heave a huge sigh of relief. He quickly grabbed the black pen from Yunjian's hand and wrote down all the names and addresses he knew on the white paper. Everything I know is up there. Let's go. The man shoved the black pen and white paper back into Yunjian's hands. He pushed his girlfriend and staggered 2 steps forward. He almost lost his balance and stumbled. Hold on. Yunjian said slowly and gloomily. From the sound of her voice, one could tell that there was not a single trace of expression on her face. The man and his girlfriend's hearts trembled slightly. Just as the man turned around and was about to ask if Yun Jian was going to go back on her word, he suddenly heard a cold and indifferent voice behind him. He had heard the last words in this world, "You too know that I'm still alive in this world. Do you really think you can leave safely?" And province, Hezhou City. In a certain dance studio. A group of young girls dressed in bright and beautiful clothes were following their instructor in front of a large mirror, swaying their bodies to the music and dancing seductively. Unlike these young girls who were dressed in bright and beautiful clothes, there were 2 or 3 hourly workers who were wearing overalls and yellowish-white shoes. They were bent over the large floor of the dance studio, cleaning and mopping the floor. They were immersed in their work. These 2 or 3 hourly workers were hired by the boss to clean the dance studio every day. Among them, a girl with a slender figure and a perfect body, but her appearance was slightly ordinary. Her eyes flashed sharply. This ordinary-looking girl was none other than Yun Jian, who was in disguise. At this time, Yun Jian raised her eyes and looked at the girl who was about 15 or 16 years old, who was also beautiful but doing the work of the lowest class. Looking closely, the girl Yun Jian was looking at was 80% similar to Yun Jian's appearance. This young girl was none other than her own daughter, Si Yuan, who had grown up. Yun Jian's eyes darkened slightly. Suddenly, she heard the latest news broadcast from a color TV in front of the dance studio. It's reported that there have been more than a dozen headless murders in Zhe Province's Longmen City. However, the murderer knows how to erase the evidence at the scene, so the police can't start the investigation. The police are still investigating. Please follow us. We'll update you as soon as there's more news. Bookhouse Reading Website. Chapter 2645. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, Part 1, Part 2, Page 1/1. After the news report came out, the other girl who was working part-time in the dance studio with Yun Jian and Si Yuan wiped the sweat on her forehead and could not help grumbling to Si Yuan, who was not far away. Headless murder case. Si Yuan, I heard that your hometown is in Zhe Province's Longmen City, right? Hearing this, Si Yuan's hand paused. A trace of imperceptible desolation appeared on her young but beautiful face. Si Yuan nodded gently at the part-time worker who was with her and continued to do her work without saying anything. This was the fate of Si Yuan and Si Yuan after they grew up after Yun Jian and Si Yi's death. Yun Jian tightened her grip on the mop, but she did not say anything. Yun Jian did not go forward to acknowledge Si Yuan as her daughter, as if something was squeezing her heart. Even if she was penniless when she first came to the future world, it was easy for Yun Jian to get rich in an instant with her ability. She also had the ability to let Si Yuan live a life of luxury immediately, but she did not plan to do so. She only planned to stay by Si Yuan's side and protect her silently before she found the mysterious man. Si Yuan was captured by the mysterious man. Yun Jian and Si Yi in the future world were gone. In addition, Yun Jian and Si Yi were not the only ones who perished together with the mysterious man back then. To Si Yuan was her only living relative other than Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian. Now, as Si Yuan's biological brother and her pillar of support, Si Yuan had left for a place where everything had yet to begin in order to change his fate. He had not returned since he left. To Si Yuan, she did not have a trustworthy friend by her side now. She had to work outside the province to make a living, which resulted in her reticent personality. There was a moment of silence after that. Sigh, I'm so tired. My mom cooked supper for me. I can go home for supper tonight. Not long after, the group of beautifully dressed young girls who were practicing in front of the mirror in the dance studio walked out. One of them stretched lazily and spoke with a relaxed expression. The girls who were dressed up were a stark contrast to Yunjian, Si Yuan, and another worker who were sweeping the floor. The girls who were having lessons left the dance studio one after another. This meant that Yunjian and the rest had to mop the floor of the dance studio again. Si Yuan. Let's go together. At this time, a well-dressed girl came out of the dance studio and walked in front of Si Yuan. She tilted her head at Si Yuan. The girl's name was Yuan Tianqi. She came from a rich family. Yuan Tianqi was Si Yuan. She was Si Yuan's friend. She and her long legs. She was wearing a short leather shorts that just short of her butt. Si Yuan's looks. Was. The girl was is she. I haven't finished mopping the floor here. You can go first. Si Yuan looked like she wanted to go with Yuan Tianqi, but she paused and held the mop in her hand, refusing. I'll help you clean here. Go. Yunjian took the mop from Si Yuan's hand and said. How can I? It's tiring for you to help me mop. Si Yuan was stunned and quickly said. Go play. Remember to go home early. Yunjian did not say anything else. She just reminded her. The words go home early suddenly made Si Yuan want to cry. She wiped away her tears. What's wrong? Yunjian saw Si Yuan wiping her tears and frowned slightly. Si Yuan saw this and quickly waved her hand at Yunjian. Nothing. I just feel that you look like someone I know. Very similar. She really looks like my dear mother. The mother I want to see again. Book Guest House Reading Website. Chapter 2646. 2, page 1/1. If she's willing to do it, just let her do it for you. Aside from Yunjian and Si Yuan, the other hourly worker saw this scene. She walked over and stuffed the mop in Si Yuan's hand into Yunjian's hand. As the girl who worked part-time in the dance studio like Yunjian and Si Yuan spoke, she shoved the mop she was holding into Yunjian's hand as well. Hey, since you're helping Si Yuan, then help me too. Help me mop the floor. Don't worry, I'll take good care of Si Yuan. The girl who worked part-time in the dance studio was smart. She knew that Yunjian was concerned about Si Yuan, so she used the latter as an excuse. Yunjian would definitely agree to it. Yunjian blinked. Sure enough, when she heard this hourly worker say that she would help take care of Si Yuan, she tacitly agreed. No, I can't let her do the work of 3 people by herself. You guys go play. I'll stay and mop the floor. For some reason, Si Yuan didn't want to leave. She snatched the mop back from Yunjian's hand and insisted on going with Yunjian. Okay, I really don't have a choice. Tianqi, let's go together. The other hourly worker said and put on a helpless expression. Then, she climbed onto Yuan Tianqi's arm. Yuan Tianqi froze, but he still nodded. Okay. This hourly worker girl didn't come from a good family. Her family didn't have money to support her, so she came out to work when she was 15 or 16 years old. The hourly worker girl's name was Gan Suya. Yuan Tianqi and Gan Suya left. Yunjian's hand holding the mop slightly paused. She smiled from the bottom of her heart and looked at Si Yuan. Why didn't you leave? Because I can't let you be alone, Si Yuan said and took the mop from Yunjian's hand and started mopping the floor again. After saying that, she seemed to be more cheerful in front of Yunjian. Suddenly, she grinned at Yunjian. Her smile was so beautiful that it was amazing. Also, I think you look like someone. That person is my mother. As she spoke, her voice became softer and softer. In the evening, Yun Jian personally sent Si Yuan to her residence and was about to leave. There was no trace of the mysterious person near the university. Yun Jian had left the university and was now temporarily living in Hezhou city of An province. Just as Yun Jian was about to leave, Si Yuan suddenly asked her to stay. The girl who lives with me just moved out today. Do you want to move in with me? We can play games together, sleep, and count the stars. Before Si Yuan could finish, Yun Jian agreed, okay. In the blink of an eye, it was the end. At the end of the month, after settling her salary, Si Yuan planned to give herself a day off. Coincidentally, Yuan Tianqi and Gan Suya had asked her out to play together. Si Yuan was looking forward to it very much. Si Yuan also invited Yun Jian to go with her, but Yun Jian refused. You must be home before 7:00 in the evening, Yun Jian said. In the future, Si Yuan did not learn martial arts from Yun Jian because she had been well protected by her family. Okay. I find that you really look like my mother. Si Yuan smiled excitedly at Yun Jian. Then she waved to Yun Jian and left the rented house to go out to play. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and smiled. Soon after Si Yuan went out, she left with her. In Hezhou city of An province, in the home of the chairman of the most famous and powerful Tianma group in the city. The Pegasus group had opened a Pegasus nightclub in private, and the nightclub did some unscrupulous business. At this moment, in the office of the Tianma group, a 19-year-old girl was stepping on the shoulder of the chairman of the Tianma group, Ma Jianhang. She forced the chairman of the Tianma group, Ma Jianhang, to kneel down in front of her and listen to her trembling. And this girl was none other than Yun Jian. Book Guest House Reading Website. Chapter 2647. Upon closer inspection, the director of Tianma Group, Ma Jianhang, was shaking all over with sweat beading on his forehead as he knelt before Yun Jian with his head lowered. Yun Jian wore a black mask that covered her entire face. She stepped on the shoulder of Ma Jianhang, the richest and most powerful magnate in Hezhou city, like she was doing something that could not be more ordinary. Following the recent murders in Longmen City, a young girl with the codename Soul Slayer had appeared in the underworld. It was said that the girl looked to be in her teens and wore a black mask daily. Her identity was unknown and she was decisive in her killings, killing anyone she targeted. Ma Jianhang was unaware of Yun Jian's identity. He only knew that Yun Jian came to him because she was interested in his wealth. You! Whatever you've taken a fancy to from my company, please take it away. Please let me go. Please let me go. Ma Jianhang was pale with fright. He did not even know which corner Yun Jian had snuck into his office from. Once Yun Jian appeared, she threw him to the ground. There was a blade attached to the heel of her shoe that was stepping on his shoulder. The blade was pressed tightly against his neck. 50 million yuan, not a cent less. Transfer it to this card. Yun Jian tossed a bank card in front of Ma Jianhang. Ma Jianhang obediently made a phone call and asked someone to transfer the money to the bank card number. Soon, Yun Jian received 50 million yuan in her account. Once the money was in her hands, Yun Jian stomped on the bank card on the ground. The card bounced up and landed in Yun Jian's palm. Holding the card, she ground the blade under her foot into the ground and kept it without a trace. At the same time, in Pegasus nightclub. Si Yuan, it's true. You have to believe me. It's Tianqi who recommended it, don't you believe me? I tried it 2 days ago. I can earn at least 200 to 300 yuan a night just by pouring drinks for people in the bar. It could even be up to 1,000 yuan. Why don't you come and work with me? This way, we won't have to work so hard to mop the floor. Gan Suya dragged Si Yuan to the Pegasus nightclub. Really? Si Yuan was indeed moved. She was just a little girl who had not experienced anything. She didn't even know what a place like a bar was. Really? Moreover, as long as you accompany them to drink, you'll get a tip. Why don't you try coming here to work for a day? I promise you won't go back to mop that dirty floor again. Gon Suya nodded her head like a rattledrum. She dragged Si Yuan into the bar. On the other side, after Yun Jian returned home, she did not see Si Yuan. It was already 7:30 in the evening. She told her to go home at 7, but she was still not back at this time. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. At this time, Si Yuan was dragged by Gon Suya to change into the professional attire of the bar. It was a mini-skirt, similar to what the receptionist of a bar would wear. This skirt, isn't it too short? Si Yuan tugged at the hem of her short skirt, but it couldn't cover her beautiful white thighs. Wow! Si Yuan, your legs are too beautiful. The big bosses will definitely like your legs very much. At this time, Yuan Tianqi led a woman who was dressed very maturely into the changing room. When Yuan Tianqi saw Si Yuan, she exclaimed, her eyes shining. As he spoke, Yuan Tianqi even brought the maturely dressed woman behind him in front of Si Yuan, and then introduced her. Oh right, let me introduce you. This is the person in charge of the bar. Everyone calls her Sister Hong. Si Yuan, once you enter this industry, you'll really be drunk and won't want to be a floor sweeper for the rest of your life. Chapter 2648. As Yuan Tianqi spoke, he reached out and touched Si Yuan's thigh that was exposed outside the bar's business attire. He was joking with Si Yuan like they were best friends. Si Yuan only gave Yuan Tianqi a small, symbolic smile, but her face was lifeless. Si Yuan had never come into contact with this before, but her innate perception gave her a bad premonition. Quick, greet Sister Hong. Yuan Tianqi said and nudged Si Yuan with his elbow, hinting at Si Yuan. Thinking that greeting should be basic etiquette, Si Yuan said to Sister Hong, "Hello, Sister Hong." Good sister, you should only be 15 or 16 years old, right? You're so beautiful. Actually, Sister Hong is only a few years older than you. When I was your age, I also came out to make a living by myself. In the future, treat this place as your home. Sister Hong will protect you. Dressed in a red cheongsam, Sister Hong walked towards Si Yuan leisurely. She was wearing a smoky makeup and high heels that were more than 10 centimeters tall. When she walked in front of Si Yuan, Sister Hong reached out and grabbed Si Yuan's arm, making Si Yuan's heart feel warm. However, Si Yuan still took 2 steps back without a trace. Whether it was Yuan Tianqi, Gon Suya, or Sister Hong, they all gave Si Yuan a very warm feeling. But why did she still feel that being with the people in front of her wasn't as comfortable as being with Yun Jian? Tick-tock, Si Yuan was silent for 2 minutes. Suddenly, she heard the crisp sound of the clock turning. She raised her head and looked at the clock hanging on the wall in front of the changing room. The time on the clock was a little past 7:30. It's already 7:30. I should go home. Si Yuan looked at the clock, turned around, and wanted to go into the changing room to take off her clothes and go home. What's the rush? Si Yuan, no one is waiting for you to go home anyway. It's only 7 o'clock. It's still early. Let's play for a while before going back. Let Sister Hong take you to get used to your new job. Yuan Tianqi saw this and reached out to grab Si Yuan. He even gave Gon Suya a sidelong glance. Seeing this, Gon Suya smiled and walked over to grab Si Yuan, urging her to stay. That's right, play for a while before going back. We'll send you home later. Yuan Tianqi and Gon Suya tried their best to persuade her to stay. In addition, Sister Hong said that this was a good job. If Si Yuan didn't stay tonight to apply for the job, she wouldn't have another chance. There were many people lining up to get this easy and lucrative job, so Si Yuan agreed to stay. Can you lend me your phone? I want to make a call. And she is still waiting for me at home. She said that I have to be home by 7 o'clock. Si Yuan spoke again. And she was Yunjian's fake name. Si Yuan, Yuan Tianqi, and Gon Suya all referred to Yunjian as Enchi. And she isn't your parents. Do you think you'll go home when she tells you to? We don't have our phones with us. Alright, let's go. I'll explain it to her when I go back tonight. Yuan Tianqi pushed Si Yuan and pulled her out of the changing room with a half-hearted refusal. Standing in the empty rented apartment, Yunjian's face gradually darkened. 7:35. Si Yuan had always been an obedient child. It had been so long since the scheduled time and she still hadn't returned home. Yunjian stood up from the sofa and walked to the door. She opened the door and left the rented apartment. The future world had undergone earth-shaking changes because of the death of the future Yunjian and Ce. In 2004, Yunjian only needed to make a phone call to investigate a person's whereabouts. But in 2019, without power, it wasn't so easy for her to investigate a person. Of course, everything that wasn't easy, even if she had to start from scratch and start all over again, in Yunjian's hands, it would become a piece of cake. After being threatened by Yunjian, the chairman of the Tianma Group, Ma Jianheng, couldn't recover from the shock for a long time. At this time, Ma Jianheng was hugging a naked woman with ample breasts and buttocks. Because they were tired after hard work, they both laid on the bed and prepared to go to sleep early. It was pitch black all around. Just as Ma Jianheng heaved a sigh of relief and was about to fall asleep, a ghost-like figure suddenly appeared on the balcony outside the curtains. Who's there? Ma Jianheng inadvertently caught a glimpse of this figure and was so scared that his lips and teeth turned white. Just as Ma Jianheng was so scared that all his muscles tensed up, a female voice that scared Ma Jianheng so much during the day that he almost peed his pants and would never forget until his death suddenly sounded from the balcony outside the curtains. Old thing, I'll give you 1 minute to get dressed and get out here. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.